welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How the hell are you? Did you use the buffering gag? Yes. Did you slide it right in there? Plays so well for those of you listening only. Welcome back. We are live from the West Side Comedy Theater.
I'm trying to think what if people, like if they're in their car listening, they probably think, you know, like, oh, I'm getting a call, or...
Yep. I get tweets and texts about it.
I'm trying.
Text is weird because fans shouldn't have my cell number. No, I get tweets and emails about it for sure. Like, what I fall for it every time.
If anybody needs to know Kevin's number, it's 310.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. That big in the business.
That big in the business.
You're alone over there.
I am.
Everyone's favorite tiny kike, Sam Levine, not present.
Wow.
Too soon?
Wow.
Don't call him tiny?
He's in Austin, Texas, I believe.
He's in Austin, Texas.
Promoting the web series that he keeps talking about.
That's on Rooster Teeth.
Which sounds like, as I always say, something that Charlie Kelly made up in his dreams. Rooster Teeth.
Yes. Charlie Kelly reference. Out of the box. Last week was Andy Kindler. I was not here. I was coming back from a horrible one-nighter.
You missed the Jew Fest.
So what?
You missed the Jew Fest.
I did miss the Jew off. Speaking of all things kike. So was it? It's the K word. It's the K word that only fellow Hebes can say. Listen, if good for the geese, the gander. But I listened to it. I listened to the Kindler episode on the walk run. You know what I've been doing on the walk run the last couple of days, what I've been listening to? Our guest today's podcast in preparation. And I listened to our favorite John Mulaney. And man, oh man, we're going to get into that.
I made some Kindler highlights from last week. Would you like me to read? I wrote them down.
Please.
Who'd I gotta sleep with in this town to take a nap?
Like that.
I'm always at a career low point.
Like that.
Very Pedestrian was the name of my first comedy album.
Like that.
And what part of the chicken does the Jack Nicholson impression come from?
When talking about comics from the 90s. What part of the
it's
chicken?
talking about like hack comics at the Montreal Comedy the Just for Laughs Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were my Kindler highlights. Oh, and also, he stood on stage and ate a slice of pizza and called it his Nobel Pizza Prize.
Oh, man.
That was pretty sweet.
You love the wordplay.
I do.
The last show we did from the LA Podfest with the David Harbour.
Who just did the Oh Hello show I saw.
Yes.
He just got pranked with too much tuna. Or pronged.
I might have helped make that happen. It's not a competition. We love the Stranger Things. Sheriff Hopper. We took to dinner and we were talking about, you were mentioning all the ways that pop culture was going to have fun, like South Park, SNL, and oh God, you live in New York, you should, the Oh Hello, you should, and he said, oh my God, do you think? And then a couple of emails later, he did the show and you saw him.
He did with the I don't know the actor's name, the young boy that played Dustin.
Oh yeah.
They both did it, yeah.
It was the 14th, I think, which would have been
Friday.
Yeah.
According to my watch.
Hey, what happened last weekend? The Late Bloomer Open, a little sex comedy with a heart that I directed. Please write to us and let us know if you saw it, what you thought of it. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Coming to you live on the YouTube. How you enjoying the Earwolf? Subscribe to us, you fox. I think that's it. Our guest today. I'm very excited about this. We don't really know each other, which is wonderful because, you know, when you start a show like this, you reach out to everyone in the Rolodex, and that only goes so far, and then friends of friends, and then we've probably had 40 people of the 280-something episodes, because on Twitter someone will yell at, hey, at so-and-so, you should do at KP Chat Show, and then if they respond at all, I just jump down their throats until it happens. So that's another way. And then the Largo Theater here in Los Angeles, where we have our anniversary shows now and so on, is where, and I feel like I don't know that we met prior to that. I feel like we did. Let's find out. Unless he's sitting here, let's just go ahead and talk to him. Although I do have emails. Yeah. I actually am going to read one because it's to him. You know what, I'll say hello first, Pete Holmes, and then I'll read this to you. How about that? Pete Holmes, yes, hello?
Hello.
Okay, good. We like things, our mantra 7.5 years ago was we're not ready.
Yeah.
And if it's not loose and weird and awkward,
It's very tense.
Not doing it right.
Very tense.
Dear Petey Pants,
Hello.
decompression sickness, also called the bends, is a result of inadequate decompression following exposure to increased pressure.
I think we all know what the bends is.
What the fuck?
We've listened to Radiohead.
Now that we've defined the bends, I must ask if you give weirdos, that would be your podcast fans, the bends on purpose. I've never missed an episode of YMIW, and I usually listen while working on a ladder.
On a ladder.
Since I am on a ladder, say ladder more, I cannot look at what episode is coming up next on my listening device. So when episodes go from Lama Surya Das to Bert Kreischer, or thereafter, I get the oral version of the bends. Still love you. I just assume it's part of your comedic style.
Oh, interesting.
And that you do it on purpose. Why would you do that on purpose?
He's saying it's jarring going from like a llama to Bert Kreischer.
And I'm wondering if he's actually think you would do.
I think that's fun. I actually don't want to burst that bubble. I'd like to. It's kind of like a fun little conspiracy that I've never been involved in a conspiracy before.
Yeah.
But the idea that I am planning the episodes to fuck with a man on a ladder is a fun one.
Right?
But you know, the show, I'm sure, just like the show, we met at Largo, and now here we are, and I'll run into Lama Surya Das, and then he'll do it. It's very haphazard. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But I hope, as it is my hope with everything we do on the podcast, even the mix-em-up and the jarring bends-like feeling is titillating and exciting for you.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's your answer.
What was his name?
Steve Owens from San Antonio.
That was who said that?
The only other city in Texas that doesn't need to burn itself to the ground. I made that comment here that other than Austin, maybe San Antonio.
Right.
The rest of Texas.
There was a Sam Levine's in Austin, the one city that would have him. But as you said, I'm not a Hebe, so I can't make that joke.
Well, you can. You can and you should.
You deplorable man. Can I just say you're so much better looking than this? Who drew this? Your worst enemy?
Have you ever seen a caricature of yourself that was flattering?
Yes, I have.
Come on.
I have.
How did this happen?
There's a t-shirt that we sell. It's going to sound like I wanted this to come up.
Too late.
But it says Petey is my homeboy.
Sure.
HOLM boy.
Uh-huh.
And I love that caricature of me. Jenny Fine is the artist, and she drew it. But she'll do it like you draw a portrait for a king.
Right.
She'll take some of the face weight off, some of the years of drinking and
She made an effort to be complimentary.
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So I really like that
This
one. You
person
also,
did not.
But I have to assume you didn't find this, post-it noted to your car. You paid someone to do this.
Well, first I paid someone to do that artwork on my website for the longest time. It's
Yeah.
no longer there.
Yeah.
And during that period of time, we had the mugs made. And,
But you still didn't update the horrible caricature.
Well, I liked it. It's horrible.
It looks like Chucky's dad.
You know, Pete
And look
Holmes.
at you. You're smooth.
Aw.
You're a good-looking man. Look at you.
Wait, that was a laugh from there.
That's your wife.
Yeah.
It's your forever fiance.
That's right.
Forever fiance.
Steve Owens,
Is that who the ladder man is?
will you play Fake Laugh into Real Laugh with Chat Show? That would be amazing. And then,
We haven't done that for a while.
who else? Oh, there was a Larry King game. So at the end of the show, we'll have you play the Larry King game. So I'll read this person.
Do you ever wink at yourself when you look in the mirror?
Is that a Larry King game?
No, I'm
Oh.
asking you. I'm still on that you're a good-looking man.
Double
You ever-
guns.
do-
I do
do
double
you?
guns in the morning.
Don't fuck with me, fella. Can you swear on this program?
Yes.
Do you ever do that?
No.
Come on.
No.
You should.
Double guns to me
You're you.
is like the
How about just one?
could be the cheesiest.
Yeah, no, nobody wants this.
I did.
If I'm doing this, next thing I'm doing is giving you an expensive pen.
What?
I use off-camera conversations
Yes.
for callbacks.
I like that.
I don't need help.
I was talking to someone recently, and they made a gift for me.
Ah,
Oh, Chris Alvarado. We're talking about somebody being so good looking when they're brushing their teeth that they actually look in the mirror and go, like they give themselves a little, right?
Yeah, well, I think you're good looking enough to do that.
You're very kind.
Yeah, come on.
So is that saying that Chris is aware of how good looking he is? Is that the deal?
No, we were talking about somebody else.
Oh, okay.
I said that about him.
Hambone?
There's Johnny Ham, maybe.
If I was Jay Ham, I'd
Right?
give myself a little.
Yeah.
What do you want to hear? That's my John Ham.
So the time at Largo recently was the first time we met in person.
We've never met.
The fuck?
And I was very excited. I like meeting other artists. I really do.
Yeah.
It's you were talking about. Sorry, I forgot your fiance's name.
Jamie.
Jamie Foxx, like the actor.
You won't forget it again, Jamie Foxx.
I thought that was a bit. Jamie was talking about how she had a nightmare that the sketches you wrote didn't get into your show.
Yes.
I have horribly embarrassing showbiz dreams, and I have since I was a young boy.
Yes.
Of like just hanging out with Will Smith or something just like embarrassing. So when I'm at Largo, not to a gross, I think it's not grotesque or anything, but when I meet somebody that I know and I respect, it's exciting for me.
Yeah.
And then when they want me on their podcast, that's exciting for me. I like that element of this life.
I never, ever have lost that. I can be
It's
on the
fun.
set. Every time I go to work on a movie, if there's someone that I admire, I've never lost that feeling
juice.
of, oh my God, it's him.
Yeah, it's a good juice feeling. And then when they're kind and they're nice.
Right.
And in Dream of Dreams, when a John Hamm agreed to do my podcast and was like into it, that's like the best it gets. Like that doesn't go away. But I'm always looking for those things that make you come alive. And I'm fortunate as someone with my own podcast that I come alive when I'm meeting. So I hope that's what happens today.
Well, I really don't think that's possible.
But I've already...
Wait, you've already put yourself out there.
I've done a mug bit.
Yeah.
I complimented you.
Yes, you did. By hating the animated version of me.
No.
Charlie Cook from Galt, California.
Oh, Charlie.
I just want to give a shout out to his Larry King game. So the Larry King game is we like to make fun of Larry, which I had a movie that I directed and opened and that I mentioned, but I had to do all this press. One of the things was Larry King. Have you done Larry King's?
No.
Okay. So I've done it twice now, and each time they say, you got to do the Larry King game with him, because we've been doing it on the show from the beginning. And he still doesn't get it. Like, I do it right to his face. And I say, you know, Larry, when you were on CNN, and you would, before you'd throw it to the phones, you'd look down the barrel and say something that only you care about and no one else does. Hydrox, what the hell? Schenectady. You know, why are you? So this guy says, you folks can, here we go. Hey, have you seen this new hit show called The Simpsons? I think it has legs. Weed, California, you're on the air. Thank you, Charlie and Tanya Cook. All right. So here's what I want to know, Mr. Holmes.
I pee in the pool and you can't stop me. Hello, Albany.
Well, we've already cut that to the end of the show. Beautiful. I pee in the pool and you can't stop me. That. Speaking of gifts, let's jump right to the exciting news, please. According to the internet, your new television program, Crashing, debuts on HBO in February. So first, let's talk about the genesis. Congratulations. I'm unbelievably excited for you and Mr. Apatow.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can be excited for Jed as well.
Well,
He's doing well.
yes.
It's more exciting for me.
But he's never directed a television pilot before. This is kind of a big fucking thing.
I want to say that that's true. That
No, it is
true.
true.
It is true. Okay.
Research.
Research department, 16 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you have a mid-roll ad. Stamps.com and Squarespace.com. Adam and Eve, fuck yourself. It's very exciting. Jed directed the pilot and directed the finale as well.
Oh boy.
I'm a big lightning strike twice guy. Like if he directed the pilot and then never came back, I'd be
Right.
like, oh, we must have fucked up somehow.
Yeah.
So the fact that he came back was very, very exciting, obviously. And the fact that he wanted to do it and was very involved every single step of the way. Down to what we're wearing and every line, everything went through Jed, which is incredible.
Yes.
Like I did a talk show, that wasn't necessarily the case. I did it after Conan. Conan was very hands-on, but Jed is like really super duper involved.
Yes.
Which I didn't expect, but I'm not surprised, but I'm very pleased that he wanted to be that way.
Yeah. Well, I've talked a little bit about the experience of directing film, because as comedians, we're the writer, the editor, the director, the choreographer, the performer. We're all of it.
Yeah.
And like a boxer, you can have people in your corner, but once you step out of that ring, you're living and dying moment by moment on your instinct.
These and other things I try not to think of when I'm doing
but I
stand-up.
force you
Do you ever
to.
have a thought like that before you go on? It's not going to be great. And you're like, every moment's a new challenge. Like, it's better to just pretend like that's not happening. But that is happening. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like that served me extremely well, because people were asking, you've worked with all these great directors, did you pull from experiences with them? The truth is I pulled way more from a comedian and honing these instincts of, that's funny.
I think that's one of the things, ideally, that makes a stand-up appealing to show business.
Sure.
But when is that they're like a proven well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They can mine and deliver oil, and they
Yes.
do it on their own.
Right.
And that's always they're like upstart guys, and women obviously, but I just meant people, and they write their own stuff, and they're driven to go out and perform it.
Right.
And that's kind of undeniable. I've been, like with Judd, for example, there was this sort of mild butt-sniffing process where, like, when you want to join the club in Fight Club, remember?
Yes.
You have to stand on the porch for 3 days, and when the Karate Kid wants Miyagi to teach him, he first makes him clean up his yard and stuff. So there are these things that, like, I noticed that Judd was like, okay, you want to do a show, write an episode. And, like, I've also noticed that sometimes that doesn't work. Like, sometimes Judd's working with somebody and he's like, maybe try that, and maybe nothing ever happens. But it was this test. Like, he put the ball in my court after I pitched him the show, and I was like, I wrote one, and then he was like, I like it. Write another one.
Take me to the moment, if you would please, where you decide, I'm going to pitch Judd a show.
Wow. Send your research packet, because it's a pretty good story. I think it's a good story. I had this talk show, right, that I've already referenced, and this is the shirt I was wearing in promo photos for it, so that's embarrassing. I haven't bought a new. Does this look familiar?
All the research said, will he ever put on a jacket?
Yeah. Very, very true. I got a lot of shit for not wearing a jacket. Anyway, do you have something?
Nope.
Okay.
So when you were doing the TV show?
I had a talk show. It was canceled, and it was canceled months before anyone knew it would be canceled.
Right.
So I was kind of in this interesting position where I knew my show, which we had taped all of them, and it was going to be on for months from that moment, but I knew it was over. So Oren Brimmer, who kind of has worked with me a lot, we got together, and we were like, what are we going to do? Let's hit the ground running. And
he's like a writing partner?
He's directed and produced almost everything I did. We did a lot of the Batman videos together, all the front page film stuff, and he was a big part of why I think I got a talk show. Him and Matt McCarthy, we had this group together.
Right.
So I'm very indebted to both of those guys, and Oren and I met, and we talked about what to do, and we were like, our favorite part of the talk show was doing the sketches. Like, we love doing sketches. So we're like, let's go pitch a sketch show. So, like, we set up a meeting. Let's say this was a Tuesday when I found out that show was canceled, and on Wednesday, we went into Comedy Central. The days will become important later.
Sure.
We go in on a Wednesday, and it's like Kent Alterman and all these great people that we know at Comedy Central, and they're happy to take the meeting, and they don't know what it's about, and we're shooting the shit. And in the preamble, they mention, one thing's for sure, we don't want another fucking sketch show. So we're just sitting there like, shitting bricks. So then we just we play it off as if we don't have an idea. We're just like, well, we just wanted to check the pulse. And then we just left.
That's what we call thinking on your feet, but it's wildly important to the story.
Yes.
That you're able to call an audible. Did you look at each other as creative partners, and one of you give a certain look that said, you're not going to mention the talk show without having to say it out loud?
Yeah, we didn't mention the sketch show. Yeah, there was sort of a non-verbal. And then we probably, to be honest, pitched something else. We were probably, because we always have a couple ideas working.
Sure.
So we didn't nobody looked stupid, but we were kind of like, that's not what we came to do. So I got in my car. And this is not far from where we are over at Comedy Central. And I'm sitting there and I was very frustrated. I didn't know what I was going to do, and that wasn't a good feeling. I'd just been in this very regimented life for the past couple of years.
Yeah, when you do 80 episodes of anything, it becomes your life.
That's good research.
Dossier. It becomes your life.
I still have members of my team that'll be like, when you do 100 episodes, I'm like,
80.
It was 80. It was 80 episodes. It was, and it was, as somebody that likes, this isn't to sound like good old-fashioned work ethic, but I like being busy and I like making comedy, and it was a dream. The audiences came to you and you go out
employed.
and performing and gainfully employed for all that. It's wonderful. So I was like, what are we going to do? I'm in the car, we're not going to do a sketch show, and I don't know what to do. And I literally was sitting there and I was like, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? Like literally like what a guidance counselor would say.
Yes.
Forget money, forget whatever. Just like, what is the thing that you would want to do? I was like, well, I would want to tell a story about a guy like myself who was religious, who got married when he was very young and then got divorced. That seems to be the story that I was dealt. I got married when I was 22 to the first girl that I ever had sex with, and then got divorced when I was 28 from the only woman I had ever had sex with. Turns out she had had one or two. No, she had had one other. She fell in love with somebody else. So she kind of broke my heart, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting story.
Right.
I don't know a lot of comedians that grew up like very evangelical.
You could replace comedians with humans.
What's that?
You could replace comedians.
Exactly. I don't know
with
too many humans.
Right.
If I meet someone, I went to a small Christian college called Gordon College. If I meet someone from Gordon College that went to Gordon College, it's like a B-list celebrity sighting. It's as exciting as seeing Pauly Shore or something. You know what I mean? It's just like super
I love
exciting.
that Pauly's your go-to.
I didn't mean to throw you down a peg, Pauly.
He was happy to be graduated up to a B.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
B's fine.
Lovely.
Where am I?
Yeah.
B's great.
If I could be a B student.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice 3.5. Primo. So anyway, very small school. You're right. Unique story. I was like, that's my story. And I was like, the things that I like, and I know this is pie in the sky, but one of the things that I think people need to, we do have kind of a confidence epidemic in America, but private confidence in your mind, really green-lighting your own dreams, just privately. You don't have to go around like a big swinging dick telling everybody how you're going to go and sell a show to HBO and be an asshole about it. But privately, inside, you can go, dream of dreams. This type of stories I want to tell seem to match with Judd. Like I just took a quiet moment, and it happened very quickly. I was like, that sounds like a Judd story. If you look at the movies that he makes and the TV that he's made, I was like, that is a Judd story. And then in that kind of desperate moment, I was like, I thought of the engine of the show, which I was like, when my wife, this is in real life, when she left me, I kind of got thrown into the comedy community very hard. And you know, we're a bunch of misfits and ne'er-do-wells and kind of like heart of gold crazy people.
Sure.
And they really did catch me. And there was something lovely about that. And I was like, how do I turn that into kind of like a device or something, like I said, an engine for the show? And I was like, well, every episode, my character Pete will be staying on the couch of a different comedian.
Fantastic.
So that clicked in that moment. All of what I just said happened in about 5 seconds.
You did a little couch surfing.
I did do some couch surfing, and I was like, that sounds like a show.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we'll have an idea. What am I giving, a TED Talk? But we have an idea.
Yes, you are.
And
By
you
the way,
don't.
You signed a release.
Yeah. You can put this wherever you want.
Oh, we will.
You could have an idea, but you don't have the thing that makes people get it. The thing that makes you go, oh, I see how that's a show.
Right.
You can say like, oh, I was religious and my wife left me and then I was thrown into the world of comedy. That's most of the way there. And then you can go, and there's this kind of device that'll take us from episode to episode. And it helps people
Absolutely
understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Same thing for a movie, as any type of idea. If you
But
can
specifically
give
for
them,
episodic, they need to know, like you said, what is the engine?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the salt on the chocolate chip cookie. You know what I mean?
Well,
you already
I do
had
now.
a chocolate chip cookie, and you ever eat a chocolate chip cookie and you're like, God damn, why is this so good? It's always salt.
Salt.
Somebody realized, put some fucking salt on that cookie.
Yeah.
So I came up with the salt for the cookie. And I'm making up the days. I forget what I said earlier, but let's say that was Tuesday.
Sure.
That Friday, am I
Back
wrong?
on Wednesday.
I think we were on Wednesday.
Wednesday? You're very kind, Jamie Foxx. Wednesday, that Friday, Judd had done my podcast. Impossibly. It was one of the most productive podcasts in podcast history. It was me, Kumail, and Chris Gethard. Kumail and Chris Gethard and myself are all now working with Judd. It's
Right.
insane.
It is insane.
So those guys owe me big time.
Sure.
And I expect to be paid, monetarily speaking. But it was a great podcast. And Judd had also done a sketch on my talk show.
Right.
So I knew him a little bit. And Dave Rath, my manager,
Right.
who I love to tease.
I love Dave.
I love Dave too, but I tease him. The reason I love him so dearly and will love him forever is he had this relationship with Judd.
Right.
And he was like, I was like, I have an idea. I want to pitch it to Judd. And he had gotten the podcast to happen. Dave had the podcast happen. Dave had the talk show appearance happen. Obviously, Judd was a fan of the talk show, which was crazy to
Sure.
me. but Dave kind of like made those things happen. And then I was like, can I pitch him the idea? Like real grandfather armchair, get the grandkids to tell a war story. Like I was like, I have the idea on Wednesday.
Right.
I flew to New York Thursday night to pitch Judd Friday morning at like 7 a.m. or something, because he was filming Trainwreck. So I got to go to the set of Trainwreck, and I was told he had 15 minutes to talk. So I'm sitting there.
You flew where?
To New York.
For a 15-minute meeting.
For a 15-minute meeting.
That's how you do it, ladies and Jews. All right?
You know what's funny is like, my whole life it's romantic. It's not sexually romantic, but it's romantic
Of course.
in like a grand gesture. You're
Yeah.
like, I believe in this idea.
Yeah.
Turns out I don't think he knew necessarily that I flew out just for it. And since then, me and Josh Church, kind of his head producer, have laughed because so frequently Judd has to cancel things. So it's like, it was kind of riskier than I even realized.
Way.
So, I mean, it was crazy. So I flew in, he came in, we're on the set, we're in the fake magazine. Did you see Trainwreck?
I did.
She works at a magazine, and we're in the fake magazine hall. And I'm sitting there on the set, and he comes in, 7 a.m., and we're all tired, but I'm like ready to go. And you know, not to split atoms here, but there is that, like, there's an elegance to, like, you talk for the first 10 minutes. You just kind of talk, and you be a human.
How's the shoot going?
This is what a lot of people in LA don't seem to understand, is like networking is so fucking disgusting. And when you get the sense that someone's networking or looking for something or just trying to use you or drain you in some way,
Right.
those people tend to not make it too far, at least in comedy, where we don't tend to like that. So you're trying to be a human and be nice and present. And in the last 5 minutes, I told him the idea. And it was very important that I told him, I was like, I'm not coming to you because you're some sort of gatekeeper, like huge Hollywood power, which of course he is. I'm coming to you because I think authentically this is a story that you would like. And it just so happens that at that time, while he was shooting Trainwreck, he and Amy were going to the Comedy Cellar a lot. He was really getting, like, kind of reinvigorating his love for stand-up.
Yeah.
My show's about stand-up. You can really trip out on, like, the serendipitousness of the timing of, like...
But it's everything.
It is everything.
Truly.
It's truly everything.
Yeah, we should send that message out loud and clear. Timing is insanely crucial for certain aspects of your personal life and professional life.
Absolutely.
And when it happens, don't be afraid to acknowledge and embrace how beautifully you put yourself in a position for timing.
That's right. You're prepared for
Yeah.
something that might happen.
Right.
And it's kind of tense. Like, we go around kind of ready and it's not happening.
Preparation,
99.9.
meeting opportunity, is that what good fortune or luck
I
is
think
described as?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
And this felt like one of those things. I was like, this is great. He and I are both lovers of comedy.
Yeah.
And he also tends to like stories of children.
Don't undersell the engine aspect.
I thought it was
It's pretty
fun.
great because every week you want to guest star it up,
Well, yes.
right? You want to dabble in the actual world of stand-up comedy.
Yep.
You want an episode with a fill in the blank and a fill in the blank.
Exactly.
But more importantly, it seems to me that it makes it easier for him to then say, you've prepared this.
Right.
You think you want to do this.
Right.
Go write a pilot script.
Well, yes, and I'm happy to share what his process is literally.
Please.
Is he liked the idea. You know, as I get older and drink more and forget stuff, I'm sure I'll change the story to him giving me a firm handshake and like the let's go, and impossibly HBO was there and they greenlit everything. But the truth was he's smart. And we know in this business that you don't want to get too excited or too committed to something. You can just kind of be like, I like that. Why don't you work on that a little bit more? Mm-hmm. That's really as good as it gets.
Yeah.
In movies, it's a bigger moment, but in life, it's a smart business. And this is something I've learned in my own endeavors, is like, don't open your mouth until you know what the shot is,
right.
to quote Glenn Ross. Play it cool. You might be excited, but just be like, let's look into that a little bit more, instead of telling your friend, like, me and you, Kevin, you'll be in the movie with me, and then next thing you know, you fucking hate me.
But also, does it teach you...
Because I can't get you in the movie.
When people pitch you anything, to be completely honest and straightforward with them,
Yeah.
so that you don't find yourself saying, that sounds good, run with that.
Yeah.
When you actually mean, how do I end this conversation?
Yeah, I'd be curious because I'm sure Judd has some phrase that he uses when it's kind of like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a fan of like, I like that. I don't think that's the sort of thing that really with Judd, you can just say the truth. I don't have time.
Of course.
I don't have time.
Yeah.
Which is honestly true.
Yeah.
And even when I pitched the
And you
show
know that
to
going
him,
in when you put yourself on a plane.
Absolutely.
He may not have time for this.
In fact, we're doing it together. He jokes that he doesn't have time.
No.
Like, it's crazy. He's doing Love. He's doing our show.
The list is absurd.
He's producing movies,
Yeah.
which I'm always telling people, I'm like, produce doesn't mean backing the money. It means the table read, the drafts, the casting. It's everything.
Girls, all of it.
And girls.
Yeah.
So he at one point he was like, we were 8 scripts, Girls was maybe 12, Love was maybe 12, and he was like, just to thoughtfully read all of the scripts is too much time.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate that he loves his work, if I can speak for him. He does love it, but occasionally he's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But it worked out. But I was pitching something to somebody that, could have very reasonably said, I like it, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
So again, it was...
That's the thing I find. I just wrote something really dark, a 1-hour drama thing. And the people who can affect my path most are the busiest.
Well, it's funny. My dad, who's an
Right.
oil man in Boston, he has a company called Tanks a Lot. Thank you.
Loves wordplay.
No, okay. So I'm
Did
a
you
big.
just pause some sort of record? Oh, you turned your
No, I
mic
turned
on.
my mic on.
Like, I don't want this recorded.
No, thanks a lot. I have to say real quick.
Thanks a lot.
I'm a big Disney theme park nerd. My favorite theme park is Epcot, and
I like Epcot
in
too.
the living.
Underrated park.
Yes, and in the Living Seas with Nemo and friends in the queue, there's a sign for Tanks a Lot Dive Shop, and it's to air. AIR is human.
That's very nice.
Love
Right?
it.
Can I tell you, if you go to the Monsters, Inc. ride, while you're waiting, you can submit jokes. You can write your
Yes.
own joke, and they'll put them up on the screen.
At the Magic Kingdom, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, I fucking got this. I'm a fucking comedian. Didn't make it on the screen. My joke was...
Because they have to be like Laffy Taffy style jokes.
I know,
like
mine was a
almost
little
like
dark. Might be good for your movie. I go, what do kids at Disney cry when they're sad? Do you have a guess?
What do they cry?
What do they cry? Mouseketeers.
Ah!
Listen, how does that not make it on the board? I've thought about it for months. I think it's because it implies despair at Disney World.
That's it.
It's off-brand.
Right.
Mouseketeers of joy.
When
would have
kids at
helped it.
Disney are so happy,
What happens? They cry Mouseketeers of joy. It's
it would
it's
have been.
hard
You
to
had
get
to.
there.
Yeah, it was a little.
you got to turn that frown upside down, mister.
It's not on brand, and I understand, and I accept the criticism, whoever was running that, you unprofessional. You should have been happy to have me. So my dad has this company, Tanks a Lot, and he recently texted me. Sometimes, like me, I catch my dad in like some sort of manic creative state, and he'll text me like 5 texts, and he's like, you should write me a commercial for my company in Boston. And I was like, Dad, I'm literally working 15, 16-hour days editing and shooting and writing and all this stuff. I was like, he was like, Peter, he's from Boston, if you want to get something done, ask the busiest man in town.
Wow.
And that's typically true. In my dad's case, it wasn't true. I did not write him commercials, but it hasn't come up since. But there is some truth to going to the people that are they're like a huge cogs and geared machine, and it's already up and running. It's like asking somebody who's already running to stop by the store. Like, they're already on the move.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody who's on the couch. So maybe that worked out in my favor.
How long did it take you in life, not just from being busy,
Yeah.
but from life, oh, look who's enjoying some water.
I sure am glad I put water in this mug.
In life, to be able to be comfortable enough in your relationship with your father to not succumb to the guilt.
When did I put up boundaries?
Yes. Because we do a thing of Thanksgiving called Orphans Thanksgiving, where everyone, because Leno used to do this when I first moved to LA, all the comedians who chose not to go home would get together for a feast.
I love that.
Yeah.
I dabble in the fantasy of like, let's just fucking go to Santa Barbara for Christmas. I mean, how amazing would that be?
Yeah.
We went to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're Jews.
I'm not Jewish.
Italian,
I'm Roman
Catholic.
Catholic. I was raised Roman Catholic. I couldn't be any
You
less
betcha.
Jewish.
That's why you talk the way that you talk. Yeah, you're
Yeah, that's real Italian of me. You betcha.
That's Pittsburgh, by the way. You betcha. Very Pittsburgh.
That's
Nope.
very
Nope.
interesting.
So boundaries.
Boundary. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm 37, and it's a newer.
Now you're just
thing.
bragging.
Yeah, it's a newer thing, and especially with my mother. I thought this was not one of these podcasts, but my mother and I were very, very close, and it bled into the way that I perceived my romantic relationships in a very Italian way, or maybe a Spanish way. There's a lot of cultures known for like mother love, and Lithuanian is similar. I consider myself an honorary Jew, very similar mother. A lot of like food, a lot of pickled things, a lot of beets. And
Things in jars.
A lot of like anxiety.
Like the pyramid, things in jars.
Yeah. Jewish
What the Jews
mother,
eat.
Lithuanian mother.
Yes.
And she and I were very, very close. So those, I had to put up boundaries. That was very difficult.
So hard.
Really hard.
So
I had to
hard.
be like, Mom, it's not okay. Like she was like a sit on my lap, kiss me on the mouth, like sort of person. Like with tongue. No, okay, I just heard laugh, so I doubled down. But I know it's crazy. It's something we kind of explore on Crashing a little bit.
Right.
But the number of people that I've met that are like, I have what you have. Like, it seems so weird.
Yes.
But I actually think, if you want to call it the Oedipal thing or just an overloving mother thing, when the mother and the son form this alliance, typically what's supposed to happen is the father says no. I like to joke that my dad was like, you can have her. So like we like became best pals while he was kind of working. They love each other, but you know, we had a very special thing. That was harder to be like, Mom, this is fucking up my capacity to be with other people. Because like you feel like in Boston people say this sort of stuff all the time. It's like, your mother's always your number one girl. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's just like,
Matter of
that's
pride.
fucked up.
Yeah.
Like it's fucked up.
Yeah, it's wrong.
We're supposed to. My mother is such a great mother. Like I don't mean to put her down, but we've done the work. Like where we joke now, hardcore. That's one of the languages of our family is humor. And we make a lot of jokes about like she'll be like, oh, is that Oedipal? I don't want to
Sure.
kiss you on the mouth, you
Sure.
fucking weirdo.
But your dad was being sincere when he said, you should write a commercial for my company.
Yeah.
So do you factor in what it meant to him to even ask that? Or was that not too difficult for him to put that on you when you decide, I don't have fucking time for this?
Well, I diagnosed it as a manic state, and every once in a while we all get into a little bit of a manic state.
Sure.
And I think that's what I was dealing with when my dad texted me like 5 times and was like kind of proposing something fairly preposterous. I think he was even like, you could be in the commercial and you could write it. And I was like, Dad, there's ad agencies for that. That's like a full-time thing. You should pay a professional. He's like, they won't be as good. You know the business and all this stuff. And I was just kind of like, I could look up the text, but I forget what I said. It was something like, I left it like, that doesn't sound like it's for me. But then I was right. I was like, that seemed like a flare-up of like, and then this, and then this, and then this. And you were like, kind of like you would maybe with a kid. You'd be like, I'm going to let him run that off and hope it never comes up again.
Right.
Because I'm not as empowered as I'd like to be. I'd really like to be like, Dad, that's not something I want to do.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Then there is the guilty part of you that's like, just do it. But I find that when you negotiate with terrorists, whoever they may be, you have to take a hard look at what is the fantasy.
Right.
Are you going to do the commercial and then your dad's going to come up and be like, that was really important to me? You know, like I don't know if those things actually happen.
Right. Also, do you find yourself being aware, I don't want to be perceived as an asshole? That's my biggest struggle, I find, no matter how much I've learned, no matter what evolution has taken place. I take pride in someone never walking away saying, Jesus, fuck is his problem.
Yeah.
Even though we all have bad days, and that's going to happen, and Jamie will go out of her way to say, you know, you don't have to be an asshole, right? That's the person you want in your corner, I find. Especially for someone who's allegedly taking such pride in never having someone feel that way. But consequently, if you don't put up those boundaries,
That's interesting.
you can never escape.
My girlfriend, Valerie, tends to, because she knows you're a sweet guy too, tends to enjoy it when I show displeasure.
Yeah.
I spent so much of my life just being nice.
Right.
And my therapist always says, you are nice. I just happen to be a nice person.
Right.
So stop trying to be nice. He's like, I'm smart. This is Dr. Gary Penn, whose book is available now. He goes, I'm smart, but I don't go around talking like Dennis Miller. I don't need to prove that I'm smart.
I love
to
that your
everyone."
psychiatrist feels comfortable enough to slam Dennis Miller.
He takes him down.
That's
I go
pretty
Pauly Shore.
fucking great.
He goes Dennis Miller. And then I was like, he's right. It's okay. And I think this is part of the job of the artist, is to live a three-dimensional life. I feel like so many of us are taking the ugly or unpleasant emotions, and I'm very non-confrontational, so don't misinterpret me. But we're supposed to be wrong.
Yes.
We're supposed to be flawed. We're supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to wrestle with our ugliness instead of what most people are unfortunately doing is just kind of hitting mute on those channels. And I think it's the job of the artist is to go like, that's why I'm so candid about what happened with my family.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of truth that I want to be in the show, that I know that we got.
The more of that stuff you can mine for the show, I would think.
That's our job.
What is the point of finally getting that show if you don't do that?
When I watch like the debate, I don't want to get political, I really don't, but when I watch the debates, one of the things that's so frustrating about it is because they're not allowed as politicians to not be political. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even Trump, who's kind of like, I'm just, Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino for some reason. I'm just going to shoot you straight. Nobody's shooting anybody straight.
No.
But the comedian and the artist or the performer, whoever it is paid to experience things more fully and get into touch with our asshole or whoever it might be.
At least articulate authenticity.
Exactly.
I'm not asking
and the
for
truth
more.
is, like, I always use this example, the sweetest nun from time to time is pouring creamer into her coffee and just thinks like the most hateful thing.
Right.
She's just putting that aside. Like, I'd give you examples, but you can think of your own hateful thing. And she just puts it aside.
Right.
And then that's perceived as nice because we're only concerned with sins or flaws that are visible.
Right.
But the artist is supposed to take themselves and put themselves inside out.
Yes.
And go like, look at my ugliness. That's why we don't edit my podcast. I'm wrong all the time on my podcast. I think that's a gift to give to people. We have enough phoney-balones that are out there just being like,
I love phoney-balones, right?
phoney-balones that are just going around acting like their shit doesn't stink with phony Instagram accounts and posting just the right photos and selling this fake image where the flawed person, the bleeding person is
Right.
so much more relatable than anything phony could ever be.
Yeah, as historically awkward as your moment live on stage with John Glaser.
John Glazer, yeah.
Glazer.
Yeah.
Glazer?
Yeah.
Glazer, who we love.
Yeah, that's a great example of
Yeah,
something.
of you being able to stumble into a situation with no agenda.
Yeah.
That's what's clear from the objective listener, is there's no agenda even though it evolves into,
Well, I flew too close to the sun.
yeah, but again, it's all about your intent. Everything is about your intent.
For
me.
What happened on that podcast is John Glazer and I were the last two people who almost got the job as the voice of the E-Trade Baby. And my show, at that point, I think we were somewhere in the hundreds, like, of our episodes. We're past 350 now, so it's been years. But I had never stepped in it. I was just like, just be honest, just be silly, just be kind, be light, and you can talk about anything.
Right.
And that had done me a very good stead. And since then, it's still done me a very good stead. But I ran into a topic. I had on my little note card, I wrote down E-Trade Baby, and then I wrote underneath it, dueling babies. Because in my mind, it was going to be some sort of like hilarious segment where I go, John, I beat you for the E-Trade Baby. I can't believe it. And there should have been like a little bit of a natural like, oh, this is weird. And then I thought it would be cathartic to be like, yeah, and your fucking baby stinks. Listen to my baby. He'd do his baby, I'd do my baby, and we'd have the babies talk to each other, whatever it was,
right.
And be silly and light and fun. I completely understand why he didn't think that was funny or appropriate. But I mean, he looked at me very intensely and was like, why would you bring up that money I could have used for my family or something? And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I think he had just had a baby too, so it was kind of.
Yeah, it's very important, I think, for the listeners or viewers to know the name of your podcast?
You made it weird.
You made it weird.
It's the idea of steering into those things.
Right.
And that's become very normal for me.
Yes.
But if you're just a guy, and John's a great guy, agreeing to do some podcast because you're at a festival and it's better than just walking around and eating fried dough or whatever, and then you're on the show and you don't know me and I'm fucking soft and loud and all of a sudden I'm asking you about something that you haven't thought about until that moment, completely understand.
Sure.
Not everybody is going to want to be all sweetie Petey pants about it.
Yeah, but again, I take you back to, if you're just listening to it objectively as I was only yesterday.
Is that true?
Or the day before.
You were
yeah.
able to listen to it? I can't listen to that.
Well, I didn't know what I
unbearable.
was getting myself into.
It's unbearable.
But again, I will take you back to, if one is objective, it's all about intent.
Yeah.
And while you just explained your intent,
Yeah.
and that's important to have out there, I didn't know that explanation.
Yeah.
I heard it unfold in real time.
Yeah.
And I heard of someone without an agenda accidentally deeply offend someone that he cares about and really likes.
Yeah, exactly.
And both sides of it unfolding, and so I felt like, oh, so is this what the show is normally? Because again, I was very new to the podcast. Is this what the show is? Is the intention of the show? So then I had to go back and listen to a few others, and I realized that was wildly unintentional.
Right.
And yet it reached the apex of the title of the show.
Yes, isn't that funny?
Bizarre.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The mistake
Yeah.
becomes the piece of art.
That's right.
And I wish, I really do. It's hard to say. The suffering that we've done ends up being things we look back on and we're like, wasn't that a treasure? Like often.
Well, I'm sorry to point out the cliche of you learn more from failure.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So I was about to say I wish it hadn't happened. I do regret offending somebody.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it did end up, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Right.
Is we can clean.
Unintentionally or otherwise.
Exactly. Here's the whole person.
Yeah.
Here's, like, I didn't know the term tranny was offensive. I now know it's offensive. I'm using that in context. But I would just say it, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I got like a very nicely worded but harsh email from, I guess you'd call it the queer community, somebody from that world, and was like, that is fucking crazy. And I'm like, the Kings of Leon have a song called Tranny. Like how? I didn't know it was bad. I don't go back and scrub that. I'm not some guy deleting tweets. I'm like,
It's about intention.
It is.
It's about intention. You made fun of my ridiculous face that's animated here.
Yeah.
Because of the color of my face in particular.
Yeah.
When the mug was first shown on this show 7.5 years ago, I referenced what I thought that color was, and I was instantly schooled how wildly offensive the euphemism, which is what I thought I was using, is not too dissimilar from tranny in the sense of, what is your intention when you use that word?
Right.
Was your intention to offend everyone?
Right.
Right? That would find that offensive?
Certainly not.
Yeah.
But then
if we could widen out to your take on the PC nature of this horrific moment in time that we find ourselves in.
Right.
Do you think it will pass? I would like it to. Can we open up everyone's mind to just talk about the intention?
Yeah.
Stop talking about the words because they're just fucking words.
Right.
Let's just talk about the intention.
I tend to be a little bit more sympathetic, unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately, I don't know, to the offended peoples. I got into comedy. Here's the thing, Bill Burr. Have you seen Bill Burr lately?
Love.
I love Bill Burr. I'm very open that he's my favorite comedian.
Yeah.
And if you watch Bill Burr, you're like, holy shit, 9 out of 10 things are things that you feel weird about.
Right.
I'm a big believer in things like Bill. I don't think Bill's offensive, by the way. It goes back to what you're saying about intent. I do understand that someone could be offended by what he says.
And I can appreciate
that.
Sure.
And that dialogue is fair and it's good and it's part of what it's about being human. Going like, this offends me is one level. This offends me and I laughed.
Right.
This offends me and I'm not going to see him again. Those are all valid responses. My girlfriend Valerie is sitting next to me and she's laughing despite herself, which is actually one of the the most beautiful things I think you can see.
Right.
But I'm a big believer in the shadow self and giving that expression. That's what I'm talking about with the nun going, these motherfucking, whatever it is. That's part of the human experience.
That's right.
And being a human is very lonely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't really have too much of a platform for, understandably, is ugliness and divisiveness. And black and white thinking when gray is really, we all know that we're in a gray thing, but sometimes it's so delightful to see someone like Bill be like, nah, I think you should fucking get, whatever he says, Hillary gets to be the fucking president because she was a whatever, like something weird. That's the shadow self. And we all deal with that. That's, Freud and Jung talk about that part of us that we don't acknowledge, but we feel. And this is why Eminem is popular, or a lot of hip hop is popular, is you get to hear these. I just saw Snoop Dogg last night. I was at a benefit and fucking Snoop Dogg came out. And here are all these very reasonable, there were so many jokes about how liberal we were and democratic we were and sensitive we were, and they're absolutely right. That's what the crowd was.
Right.
And then Snoop comes up and he's rapping about hoes and doggy style and all the things, and we're all of a sudden so united and so into it. And I'm not critiquing Snoop Dogg at all. I'm saying in that instance, you're seeing someone literally put a beat to feelings that we have sometimes. You know what I mean?
When the nun stirs the coffee.
When the what?
When the nun
stirs the coffee.
Right.
And that's essential. So when Eminem...
Can I suggest that for a book title?
When the nun stirs the coffee? I'm fascinated, and I encourage people, and I do this with myself, just because it gives me relief. I encourage others to divide themselves into different parts.
Yeah.
I call my ego my plain view. There Will Be Blood is my favorite movie. And sometimes I'll just say to Valerie, I'm like, my plain view really came out. It's that part of me that wants to win and wants no one else to lose. I'm not disgusted by that. That's the same thing that protected me when I was a child, when the world was legs and you're on the ground and you're scared. I was glad to have a big scary ego that told me I was amazing and everything was gonna be fine. That was a valuable thing. So I don't let him steer the car all the time, but I also don't kick him out either. He's in the passenger seat or he's in the back. And this is what people like Eminem do when they say, I'm Eminem, I'm Marshall, and I'm Slim Shady. You know what I mean? And Slim Shady can get up and say horrible, disgusting stuff.
Right.
Because when the nun stirs the coffee, sometimes we have those. Do I understand, as someone who viscerally has a reaction to the F word, I'm talking about the sexual F word, not fuck, I love fuck, I'm talking about the FAG word. I do have a visceral reaction to that if it's used hatefully, just as I do with the N word and all these things, and I understand.
Intention.
Exactly, intention's important. That being said, I sympathize with people when they go, that offends me. And I understand that might be viscerally uncomfortable for them. I think what we need potentially is, well, then I'm not going to go. Remember when it was as simple as I'm not going to go see Doug Stanhope? You know what I mean? Then I'm not going to buy tickets and go see Doug Stanhope. But now there's clips of him and it's traded, and suddenly the conservative Christian is watching a clip of Doug Stanhope. And that wasn't for you. That was in a room that smelled like vomit and people were doing Jaeger bombs. Why are you watching this on your porch swing?
Yeah.
It wasn't for you.
Yeah.
And we need those things. We need ugliness. When I pass Larry Flint's Hustler Club, a billboard for that on the way here, I'm like, well, that's kind of grotesque. It's a little bit over the top to think about this weird guy in a wheelchair, with the girl in the meat grinder and tits and ass, and women are so much more than that.
It's weird that you would call him the weird guy. Go ahead.
What's that?
It's weird that you call him the weird guy. and then break down all the reasons why he's weird.
But we need these avatars, these buckets to put some of our uglier feelings.
Yeah.
And like it or not, maybe 3 cocktails in, suddenly Larry Flint's Hustler Club makes so much sense. And I go back again to catharsis.
Right.
It's not us behaving at our best, but we're not always giving a TED Talk at MIT after 2 espressos. Sometimes we're depressed, or sometimes we're confused, and we're stuck in these things with our lizard brains and our impulses, and we feel like slaves to them sometimes. And therefore art comes in and says, let's show every color. Politics can just be winning and solutions and catchphrases, but comedy should ideally be, here's some shit that really embarrasses me. Here's some shit that really hurts me. Here's what makes me cry and makes me moved, and this is what helps me transcend. I love dipping into a feeling of enlightenment and just seeing the beauty in everything, but that's not me all of the time. Sometimes I'm on a plane and I'm looking at all the TVs on the back of the seats and everyone's watching fucking Survivor, and I'm just like, this plane could crash. You know, like, who cares? You know what I mean? I feel that too.
Like Bill's bit about the cruise ships in terms of
Exactly.
thinning the herd.
Exactly. Why do I love that bit? I've been the bloated fat American on a cruise ship, and I'm like, he's right. A torpedo should take us down. This is horrible.
Yeah.
We're making up meals like hobbits and drinking at 11 a.m. We're contributing nothing. Blow us up.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's beautiful. It's all...
Well, it makes me long for the moment when comedians, but also artists of all kind, get to say, we're a minority also, and we take offense in your censorship. So don't listen, don't watch, don't tune in, don't buy a ticket.
It's
I need to
discernment.
be able to say whatever the fuck I want in my art form.
Sure, exactly. Well, it's discernment, and
Yeah.
everybody needs to have it.
Yeah.
The comedian needs to have it. Where is it appropriate?
Or
for
just
me
the
to be this
respect
way?
of, this is going to be offensive to this group, and I need to live with that, and how do I feel about that?
Right.
Can I live with saying to Dad, I'm not the person for this. You need to get an ad agency. The same way that can I live with audience members being offended by what makes me happy and laugh?
I'll tell you what. Okay, first of all, my act is very inclusive. The underlying theme of a lot of my stand-up is like, we're all in this together. Kind of what I'm saying.
Of course.
It's okay to feel how you feel. It's beautiful to feel how you feel.
Right.
Sometimes we're stupid. I call it confident vulnerability. Like I get up and I talk
Oh, I
about
like that.
how stupid I am.
I like that
But
a
it's
lot.
a very alpha beta move.
Yes.
So I'm not going for what Burr's going for, but do I want everyone to be like me? Are we here to agree? That's the question. Are we here to agree? I don't think we're here to agree. That's a point that I made.
I'm here to make you think about some things you hadn't thought of.
Exactly.
Is always going to be more interesting than needing affirmation from strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just saying what's on your heart to say and creating the art that you wish existed. But I remember talking to a young pastor who's probably like 24. I did his podcast, and I remember saying, is it a perfect world where everyone believes in what you believe? And he was like, of course. And I was like, I don't think it is. What the fuck are we doing here if it's not to get trapped in an elevator with someone who is the complete opposite of you? And not only could you learn from them, they might have what's missing in your heart. But you can't just be like, I have it, and if everyone had this, would all be okay?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous.
And there's no game to that. There's no dance to that. We're all here to kind of get a little prickled. And when somebody is offended, doing the work of asking yourself, why am I offended? And don't stop digging until you find something beautifully true about that, something of value beyond just you're like, hey, you can't say that. Let's dig. That's the beginning. And I validate, that's fine. But go a little bit deeper. Why? And what would you like to say? And then maybe you make something that represents that.
Right. That would be nice. That would be wonderful. And I don't think it's Pollyannic to suggest that that's where we need to go.
Everybody can be an artist in some respect. We don't have to be professional artists, but if something is bubbling up inside of you, it doesn't have to be a YouTube comment. It doesn't have to be some sort of divisive blog post. You can actually channel that, and instead of just tearing something down and going, Bill Burr shouldn't say those things, tear it down and erect something new in its place.
Please.
He shouldn't say this, he should say this.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what he should be saying, that's okay, but it would be better if we had suggestions, if creativity could spurn more creativity instead of just bald criticism, which doesn't really get us too far.
Or a staunch position of, if you're offended by this, fuck you. That doesn't do anybody any good. It really doesn't, because it doesn't help get the message across, doesn't help get the funny across, doesn't help get whatever the art is across.
Right.
It's as stubborn as the person being offended without building something in its place.
That's right. The comedian, too, has that burden. If you just go up and say, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this, and don't direct something in its place, you can potentially be as bad as just kind of a vapid criticism.
100%. Have you done mid-rolls for Casper before?
Yeah, Casper mattresses, they sent me one. Very good.
They sent you a Casper mattress?
They didn't send you one?
Of course. I'm just wondering, you're curious what your experience was.
Cal King.
Cal King.
And it came in the size of a small college dorm room refrigerator.
Seriously?
I don't know if you live in Manhattan, but if you're looking for a way to get a beautiful, soft, not too soft, firm Casper mattress into your walk-up, Casper mattress. Well, that's the only way to get a Casper mattress is to go to Casper. They're a sleep brand that created one perfect mattress sold directly to consumers. That's right. They took out the commission-driven, inflated prices of the middleman. Its award-winning sleep surface was developed in-house.
In-house.
You don't want to make a mattress
Don't
outside.
go outside, no.
Has a sleek design, and as I just mentioned, it's in a box. How did they do that sized small box? Which is great.
Yeah.
Get it in there, cut it, it opens like, you know, you could say a fat guy taking off his belt after Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? You just kind of like, it all comes out.
Thank you.
I thought of a couple of fat celebrities, but why?
Yeah.
In addition to the mattress, Casper also offers a pillow. You already have us, Casper. I'm going to say that line is trying too hard. You have us.
Yeah.
You're a great product. Don't bring in the pillow.
No.
Well, we know you have pillows. This seems, this is
Repetitive?
too long. Yeah, that's repetitive. You ever do that when you're doing the ads?
Yep.
You just skip a whole
Sure.
thing? Look, it's springy latex, supportive memory foam, sleep surface is just right. Just right sink, just right bounce.
I think the guarantee is the thing that nails it also. When you're able to talk about how wonderful it is, and
Yeah.
then they've got this 99 night.
100 night.
Yeah.
100 night risk-free in your own home. So you can get this mattress, Kevin.
I always picture I think why it registered as 99 in my mind is that on the 99th night you need to start really thinking about,
You have
is this
one
going
more.
back?
Are you breaking up with this mattress?
Yeah.
Are you sending it back with all of your skin cells?
Right.
Just enough to clone you?
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. If you don't like the mattress,
It's
they
actually
they
a
clone
DNA
you.
sampling business.
This is great.
Yeah. The mattresses are the beards.
I do want to say that a mattress can cost well over $1,500. That's true.
I wish you would.
But Casper mattress costs $500 for a twin, $600 for twin XL, $750 for a full, $850 for a queen, and $950 for a king.
It's crazy. I've paid over $4,000 for a king.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to,
Yeah, in your
Ridiculous.
previous life, whenever your ex-wife made you spend a lot of money.
There we go.
There
I
she
don't.
is.
I pinch pennies.
I thought you were folksy, but turns out
That was in an ad.
get $50 towards the mattress by visiting casper.com/Kevin and using offer code Kevin.
That's great.
Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you. Please take the rest of the minute off. I want to. Thank you for that. I want to, Jamie. You'll love this. I was so tickled to find this out, and I don't know because your website was listed at the top of all the cartoons that you've drawn for the New Yorker and written.
Oh, yeah.
Your website is on the top of it, and so I thought, well, if I go to his website, I'll see all of these. No, that's not how it works. So I would encourage people to Google or go to the New Yorker to find
Go to cartoonbank.com.
cartoonbank.com.
Kevin,
Yes.
may
How
I?
did this start? You've got to check out these
I
cartoons.
have
Jamie.
four, I believe. It's either 4 or 5. And you can buy the original. That's a great Pete Holmes gift. I'm not even saying for the money for me. I'm just saying they sell the originals.
Who does?
The New York Cartoon Bank. So they're just sitting there. I think that's a good gift.
It is.
The holiday season's coming. I've only sold one original.
We're less than 10 weeks away. You've only sold one original?
Well, a lot of cartoons make their money. I only did it for a couple years.
Right.
And I sold 4. A lot of cartoons make their money selling the originals, but I just think that's a classy.
Like an original cell. The one single cell.
You buy the actual drawing that you drew with the handwritten caption, which I think is pretty neat. Anyway,
What do they go for?
I think it was $600.
That
I thought I
seems
was going to say
reasonable.
they go for about $60.
Well, a print. goes for, oh yeah, 60. Yeah, I could jack it up now because what happens is they call you and they say, "What are you willing to sell it for?"
Sure.
But I don't think I'd hold anyone over the coals.
Are there some originals left? Because there's one that I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
that I think would be a lovely gift for someone in
You can
particular.
also do prints. I get about $1 every time a print.
No, but I like the idea of an original. So
Which one is it?
So I won't ask you about it because it'd be a nice surprise for someone.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, but then I could not sell it until it's you.
Oh.
I could say no.
Oh, so it's a man and a woman on a date, and the woman says, "I'm sorry, I just don't see myself with someone who enjoyed junior high." Do you remember that one?
That was not bought by the New Yorker. I love that one. This was my problem with the New Yorker, is every week I would submit 10 cartoons, and my plain view would say these are 10 cartoons better than anything you've ever had in the magazine.
Right.
And they wouldn't buy any. And this is with full respect to Remnick and Mankoff, the editors, and they're wonderful, and they have to cater to an audience that isn't just, at the time I was like 28-year-old men.
Sure.
Or no, I was like, 28. So I understand why, but I thought they were amazing. I couldn't handle the rejection after a while. And then, so cartoons like that, you can't even get that. I could find that in a drawer and give it to you.
That's what we'll talk about off air.
But yeah, sure, I'll just give that to you. But the 4 that I sold are more, I don't know what you'd say, maybe across the plate.
The Santa Claus one, maybe?
Santa Claus didn't sell.
No.
You're not in love with me, you're in love with the idea of me?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, yeah.
See,
I have another
he hasn't even seen the visual.
I have another Santa Claus one where he's shooting a free throw and the game is tied and someone in the stands is yelling, "I believe in you." I think that's really funny.
That's fantastic!
But you understand the frustration of bringing them in, and you're like, these are gold. So what I did was a lot of the rejected cartoons I turned into sketches, and those sketches ended up being on my talk show and on.
Did the I Believe in You make it into a sketch?
I don't know how I would do that.
Good. So that's something also I can negotiate for.
Yeah, exactly. These are jokes, though. It's always good to be
jokes.
writing jokes and to have jokes.
I love the 2 old guys at the bar. I went to Europe to find myself. Turns out I'm an asshole.
Very classic. I can't believe, where did you find
That didn't sell
these?
either?
No.
That's fucking ridiculous.
I'll tell you the one that didn't sell that I never, I must have pitched. There were a couple that I pitched over and over and over.
Sure.
One was 2 angels in heaven with huge wings, and they kind of have blank expressions, and they say, "I miss back rubs."
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
Yeah.
But it's New Yorker funny. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to
That's over the plate.
draw exactly, but I'm trying to be like, what do you need? And then I'd come up with a joke that I thought they wanted, not necessarily a joke that killed me.
Right, which is the death of all comedy for your act.
But I couldn't
Never
do it.
designed for what you think the audience wants.
Except sometimes when you're trying to get into a magazine that's prestigious,
Exactly.
then you have to play.
You have to know your audience.
You have to know your audience.
Please.
It's both of those things. The other one is 2 avocados and one's crying, and he says, "What do you mean I'm the good kind of fat?" It's like they're couples. Since then, that cartoon, another cartoonist, I forget his name, drew that cartoon, and I see it everywhere. Like, someone else drew it. I'm not saying he didn't steal it from me, but he had the same idea. And then you go to like a juice place in Manhattan and it'll be on the wall, and I'm like, that's my cartoon. You sound like a crazy person. You're like, I know you won't believe this.
Do you mean in that cartoon that did not steal from you, it's 2 avocados and one of them says to the other,
His version, mine says, "What do you mean I'm the good kind of fat?"
and in a way saying,
And
what do you mean I'm
his
fat?
version is one of the avocados running away crying, and the male avocado presumably is saying, "I said you were the good kind of fat." So he changed it a little bit.
Yeah. We have a segment on the show called Famous Questions, whereby I gather questions from famous people and they design a question specifically to you.
Oh, okay.
These are famous friends of yours.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
You do this. You work and make this a show.
Uh-huh.
You realize you can just show up and fuck around.
If I wanted to be more popular, that's what I would do.
No, I like this. This is good.
The aforementioned John Mulaney.
I'm John Mulaney.
You say that walking into his house, your favorite moment of doing an impression of him is when
When Nick Kroll's sister said, "Is John here?"
is John here. And it was just you walking in saying,
I'm John Mulaney. I'm John Mulaney.
which he says when he enters.
Exactly. That's a very good impression. He's always just declaring himself. But Nick always said it was a terrible impression, so it was very vindicating.
Yes.
Very vindicating.
John Mulaney.
I also had a theory in college that some farts smell like soup.
Sure.
And my roommate thought that was preposterous. We were roommates all 4 years. Senior year, after 4 years of him mocking my theory that some farts smell like soup, he farts, his girlfriend comes in and says, "Smells good, are you making soup?" 4 years in the making.
Wow.
I was thrilled.
I think if you look up vindicated.
That's it. That's the Pictionary clues vindication. You draw that scene.
How interesting that John's question is, I have a question about this Christian college he went to. Is this the schooling you were just talking about?
Yeah, Gordon College.
Did people have...
I only say that. I don't endorse Gordon College, but that is
clearly you
where I
do.
went.
Did people have roommates? And if so, were they encouraged to prevent each other from touching themselves? So you had a roommate
Yep.
whose
Whose farts sometimes smelled like soup.
Yeah, was it ever a specific soup? Because, you know, barley beef smells differently than chicken noodle, let's be honest.
But I just barley beefed. Sounds pretty good. A chicken noodle is like a go to the doctor fart. Barley beef is like, I'm fine.
Or a Jewish mother.
That's his question?
Did people have roommates, and if so, were they encouraged to prevent each other from touching themselves?
No, that's kind of like the church that I'm aware of that is very like, don't it's not mutilate, but don't molest yourself.
Gratify?
Essentially, yeah. Like a little tying your hands to bedposts and stuff. That, in my experience, has been Mormons. Like, they're really hard on that.
But that's not self-gratifying. That is a form of S&M, tying to bedposts.
Yeah. Well, tie your hand to the bed and then someone blows you while you're blindfolded. It's a weird.
Wait a second.
It's a weird church.
Oh, okay.
No, but we weren't that strict.
You weren't, no encouraging to not touch each other. Yeah.
No, we were obsessed with not jerking off. Like, we were the opposite of regular.
Well, you weren't going to school to become a priest.
I was studying to be a youth pastor.
So you did have to study and be obsessed with not touching.
This is a very interesting subject to me. Again, it goes back to external sin. Sexuality being an external sin. You knock somebody up. If your congregation is filled with pregnant teenagers, clearly the gospel isn't spreading well in this region. So, also, it's a shameful sin. Like, we're used to it now, but the first time you come, you're kind of like, what's wrong with me? Like, it's a little bit weird, and you're looking for external clues. Is this normal? Unfortunately, to a human. Like, it's just strange.
You believe that's the human experience the first time most humans come?
Maybe not.
Okay.
I was raised religious, so I can't really separate myself from
That's what
that.
I was asking you to do.
But I would argue that if you watch pornography, a lot of it is like, oh, we love come. I think one of the services pornography is offering is, it's not gross, you're normal, everything's normal, people love come.
I think it's taught. I don't think it's natural that the first time you come, you would find it disgusting. I think that's learned behavior, is what I would suggest.
Let's take it away from disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I hear what you're smelling. I hear what you're smelling. And I
said
think you're right.
disgusting.
No.
Yeah.
You're right. I think a lot of
Confused and
humanity
frightened.
can be confusing. That's better.
Confused and frightened seems human.
Shitting, farting. Like, why are junior high kids obsessed with farting? It's like the secret thing that you find a friend that you do it with, and now you're like, it's okay, we're normal. As adults, I think we forget just how unnormalized everything that we do is, including coming. So I think there's like kind of a, what is a girl going to think when she finds out that my dick shoots a gel-like fluid? Is a normal question to have. Mm-hmm. When you get the church in there and saying, God is also mad at you, you are doubling down.
Just a little.
You're really kind of fucked. But those body sins can be, it's easier to shame someone for a body sin.
Yeah.
Like sex, or this is why homosexuality is harder for some people in some churches, because it's like this thing that you're compelled to do, but it's not eating. Nobody goes around feeling that bad, or maybe some people do, about gluttony or whatever. Anyway, all I'm saying is jerking off was the thing that we measured our piety by. And we were like...
You just replaced the the nun
stirring the coffee?
Stirring the coffee. With what you just said.
Not jerking off was the measurement for our piety.
Yeah.
There are photos that I have of me in my apartment when I was married. And you could see on a whiteboard in the background, I'm wearing my Bennigan shirt. I worked at Bennigan's. And you could see my schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it said like 11 to 4, 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 off, 11 to 4, whatever. Next to that was like ticks, like the 4 ticks with a line through it, and then 2 ticks, like I'm in prison. That was me counting how long it had been since I jerked off.
You had to write that down.
That was just for me. It wasn't, my wife probably, seeing as she left
But
me.
you made the point of putting that on the thing.
It was just for me. I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife probably knew what it was. This is not a very appealing person, by the way. I'm like, I didn't jerk it today! Like putting it on the board. It's humiliating. But that's how obsessed I was into my marriage of not jerking off. Don't look at pornography. All of these things. Don't. You're evil. And I've since relaxed quite a bit.
You at least stopped writing it down.
Yeah, I don't even think about it's so funny. I think that is the perversion of something that does have some authentic spiritual truth to it. It's nice to live in the world, have sex with actual people, use your sexual energy for sex. There's something to that, but we weren't doing that. We were just trying to be good little Christian soldiers.
And there's your answer, Mulaney.
But no, we didn't police each other unless we asked for help. It was like, I'm struggling with masturbation. Please keep me accountable. That's something you could say.
Okay, from your dearest friend, Kumail Nanjiani,
Heh.
former guest of the show and fucking hilarious in
It's
the movie.
great to be here.
In the movie I directed. I'm going to keep saying.
What movie were you? What movie did we do together?
At 12:45, he wrote, "Shit, I just woke up. Question, how many months before you go back to becoming religious Christian again? Were you ever able to astral project? And when was the last time you had a lucid dream?" Answer any of those.
Those are a lot of questions. One, I'm still, he teases, Kumail and I have known each other for over a decade. And he knew me when I was counting the days, jerking off, and I was married, and I didn't swear on stage, and it was for piety. It wasn't like a Brian Regan-esque choice. It was like, I'm trying to be a good person. So he's right to tease me. I don't consider myself a Christian as the first answer. I do love Jesus. I love Christ. I'd rather say Christ. I'm into that sort of idea, cosmic Christ or whatever. So he teases me. But I'm not going back to the regular church ever. In fact, it drives me crazy. I've never astral projected. Do you know what that is?
I do.
Have you? Mm-mm. I've had very, very, very convincing lucid dreams where I think I'm astral projecting. Astral projecting is the act of voluntarily leaving your body.
And going on a journey.
And going on a little journey. And people do this. Robert Monroe wrote some very fascinating books about it, and then you come back. The CIA is arguably into it, like they look into it. Certainly they looked into it. If people are claiming that you can leave your body and spy on people, they're going to look into it. They'd be stupid not to.
Yes.
Occam's razor, is it real? Probably not. But we should look into it because there are mystics in India that are currently like, I just went to Disney, I just went to Epcot, or whatever it was. I stood on the golf ball. So I kind of think like the most interesting things no one's interested in. There's hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people that purport Sinbad is one of them, if you want to listen to a podcast of mine with someone who's astral projected. Crazy that it was Sinbad. I was not seeing that coming.
I don't think crazy is the word that we're looking for. I think hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
His name does imply he likes adventure, so it's okay.
And there are thieves nearby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But even if it is a very, very vivid hallucination, even if it is your brain tricking you into thinking that you stepped out of your body and there was a blue cord tied to your body and then you flew around, even if it's a hallucination I'm in, like I want to learn how to do that.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's satiate the critics, and I completely understand how you might be skeptical of this. Even if it is fake, I still want to do it because it sounds amazing. So I have done it in the sense that I've walked around my apartment and been like, wow, this is kind of real, but it's like 90% real. But I'm very critical. It's one of the reasons why I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because if I do it,
right,
I promise I won't bullshit about it.
Right.
Because I'll be in my room, but then I'll see like there's a bureau from my childhood bedroom in my current bedroom. I'm like, well, this is a dream.
Right.
It's disappointing. I'm like,
yes.
Shit, I thought I was outside of myself, but why would my bureau be here? And then I walked and I remember I opened the door to my bathroom and there was just like a bunch of Wall Street businessmen sitting in there.
Sure.
Like having a meeting. And I was like, this is disappointing. To answer the lucid dream thing, again, another undiscovered realm of being a human is dreaming.
Right.
And I don't understand why we aren't all practicing what might be called dream yoga or just trying to be conscious in our dreams.
Right.
Because it's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, this one over here will wake up with the most detailed dream memory.
Am I to believe you're sleeping in the same bed?
Of anyone I've ever known, honestly. And it's so enviable.
Yeah.
To remember so many details.
There are a lot of things you can do. Unfortunately, like, it takes effort, which sucks. I happen to be naturally good at it, like it sounds like Jamie's naturally good at it. So it's my job to maybe infect you with some enthusiasm. Deepak Chopra did my podcast, name drop. And we talked about it. And I was like, how do you remember your dreams? And he goes, before you go to bed, remember your day. Because he's making a bigger point, is that we're not remembering anything. Like we're just not in, it's not that we forget things, it's we don't remember to remember. So at the end of the day, if you just go like, what was this day? It kind of puts you in that mode of let's pay attention. And I really do think there's something glorious when you talk about your Christs and your Buddhas or your Muhammads or even like a Gandhi, like these realized beings, they always use language like they woke up from the dream. Like they're here, but they're like, this is just a game. We're all just kind of wearing shirts and eating sandwiches and acting like it's...
Blue pill or the red pill?
Yes, and these guys are taking, I believe it's the red pill that wakes you up. But you can have a mini enlightenment, and it's a great feeling where like you have the high school dream, and you're in high school, and my high school dream's always the same. You've been skipping some sort of physics class all year, and the final is today. So I'm scrambling. I don't even know where the classroom is, so that's part of the panic. I have to find the classroom. Then I also have to decide, am I going to cheat? Am I going to cram? Like, does anyone have the book? And I'm really running around. It's a terrible feeling. And then because of my practice with dream yoga, or whatever you want to call it, trying to remain conscious, I look at my hands a lot in my waking life, because if you look at your hands in your dreams, they'll always look kind of weird. Your brain has a hard time making realistic looking hands, so that's a clue. Clocks are always wrong. Light switches often won't do something, although that's not always true. So there are these things I do in my waking life. If I see something amazing, like I'll drive through a whole bunch of pigeons will take flight, and I'm like, that's incredible. I'll just make a note to look at my hands or look at the clock and make sure I'm not dreaming. So that's the best thing I can tell you. So then you're in high school dream. You're like, oh God, this is crazy. Why am I back in high school?
That's my most reoccurring dream as well.
Imagine how good it feels. It's worth having it to realize you're dreaming and to go, I'm 37 years old. I don't need this.
It's always the same thing. It's exactly what you're describing. It's always like I'm driving to high school, I'm late, can't find a parking spot, and then I go into, and it's usually the same class, Mrs. Gonzalez's statistics class, and
Yikes.
It's like I haven't been there all week, and she always gave one quiz. She always gave a quiz on Fridays, and I hadn't been there all week, but I'm still forced to take the quiz, and then you wake up and it's like, oh, I'm just so glad that So I have that. That's my most reoccurring dream.
The work then is to realize it while it's happening, and I can't do it 10 for 10. I can't even do it 6 out of 10. But it's such a good feeling to stay in the dream and go, there is no test. And this is one of my obsessions in life. Those moments of clarity that we all have after a great conversation, a piece of music, theater, comedy, laughing, art, whatever, lovemaking, whatever it might be that snaps you out of it. And we can capture that feeling in our waking lives of there is no test.
There is no test.
It's all make-believe. We're all just we're molecules, we're energy, we're meat puppets, and we're all walking around acting like it's very, very important. And when you go, no, it's just play. It's just a dance.
Right.
I'm just here to be a branch on the tree, and I'll just be my branch. And you're telling me that a branch has to be this or this or this. There are these mini enlightenments that we can have, and they mirror the experience of realizing that you're dreaming. So that's where you try and get that practice. A good Tibetan monk would tell you that we spend so much time sleeping every day. Why not use that to further your chances of waking up in this lifetime?
Wow. We'll be right back.
That being said, I also have stupid dreams, and I'm not always...
I'm so glad we got to the famous questions. This has become, honestly and truly...
I'm always trying to get Kumail to be more spiritual. I love teasing him.
Well, Judd Apatow, your new co-creative pal, his famous question to you was, how have your feelings about religion evolved over the years? You did just mention, I no longer, I won't, I this, I that, but I love the Christ. I find discussing religion about as I want to put the wrong moniker on it, but as potentially feeble as discussing politics.
Isn't that funny? I hate talking about politics. Yeah, I understand.
Because I want to appreciate everyone's point of view. I want to very much acknowledge the importance that all that matters to me is that you feel strongly. If you feel a sense and a need to discuss a topic as otherwise problem-causing as politics or religion, then at least be passionate about your point of view. So that's why how I sort of, as an atheist, sort of don't preach or don't even go out of my way, although I just did, to insist that that's my stance, because I'm a non-passionate person that would be described by others as an atheist. I don't even feel like I'm walking or talking any sort of path of being a so-called atheist. I'm just not buying any of it. So,
am I hearing you right? It doesn't really. It's not an interest, though.
That's right.
It's not really. I know a lot of people like you, and,
right.
and to be quite honest, I think that's. You don't need my validation, but I think it's lovely. It's like it's just not your bag.
It's not for me. It's as much as not my cup of tea as this piece of literature or that.
No.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have passions, and I think we can care about roughly three things: comedy and God or religion or mysticism or spirituality, or all these words that all of them stink. Happens to be. I like to joke that it's a tie with comedy. To be honest, I look at comedy or anything as a means of understanding the meaning of life. So really, whatever. We don't need to rank these things.
Yeah, I felt at one point religion started to represent to me a diversion from, everyone stop trying to figure out what the meaning of life is. Look over here at the burning bush.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And it certainly can be.
Because the meaning of life is just going to scare you and ultimately make you lethargic.
Yeah.
And uninterested in working the fields.
Right.
So be sure to check in with the burning bush on Sunday so that on Monday you can get back to work at the fields and not feel that life is meaningless.
I think a lot of people do, and I was a person that used religion as a way of ticking boxes and going, I think what you're alluding to is death is very overwhelming, suffering, pain, and loss is very overwhelming. So it feels very good to be in a club that can offer some sort of protection. I'm in God's special club.
Yeah, or that little moment in the Woody Allen movie when it was at, I don't think it was Annie Hall, but his character stops as a child, stops caring in school and says, what's the point? The universe is expanding.
Yeah.
And so on.
It's either Annie Hall or Radio Days.
Yeah.
I think it's Annie Hall, though.
Okay.
And I understand that. What has become a passion of mine and is not, such a cliche, but it's not a bunch of answers. It's not a bunch of ticked boxes. It's a vocabulary for somewhat ununderstandable and unspeakable things, feelings that we have. It's kind of a tricky situation, but I don't look at it as something that I check in with to abate or alleviate my fears.
Right.
And the show that we made, I like to think of it as a bit of a love story to suffering, because it's about a divorce and it's called Crashing, and my character kind of continues to run into a lot of the things that we run into that you so correctly, albeit you admitted it was a bit cliche to say those are the things that forge us.
Right.
So when I lost my faith, very typically, my wife left me, then I lost my faith. That's a very beautiful thing to me. I actually think losing your faith is an essential step in rediscovering and redefining a three-dimensional, real, exciting, vibrant faith in living spirit, in juice that's in you, and in me. It's in an atheist, it's in a whatever the fuck I am. It's exciting and it's vibrant, and we all get turned on by it.
I couldn't agree more. I think it was a moment of clarity for me of be proactive in your life, idiot. This isn't a dress rehearsal. This is it.
That's right.
Yeah.
What turns the volume up?
Yeah.
I think religion often helps us compartmentalize like we love to do, and we go Sunday for this hour and I get God out of the way. What I need is an idea of God or living spirit that is involved in everything, that was hyper present in my own divorce, that's hyper present in all suffering, that isn't somewhere else, didn't fuck up on the day of some tragedy. You know what I'm saying? I understand that this is tricky, but studying taking God
I understand
away
that
as
this
the,
is tricky as
the
beautiful.
bodyguard
Right.
who loves you but wants to protect you, like that is appealing. I sometimes miss that relationship.
Sure, of course.
So I understand the appeal.
I totally understand the appeal.
Job is to listen and study. It's not my job, it's my interest, it's my passion, is to study people that have a God that's present in all things. So when you talk about someone dying, that being just as much a part of the flow or the Tao or the way of things as a leaf dying on a tree. It's not to say your grandmother wasn't precious and special to you, but that's the melodrama of your ego. That's your attachment and that's your story. These people that can extricate themselves from the melodrama of life and look at it objectively and see that it's all beautiful and it's all lawfully unfolding. I'm not saying Hallmark style, everything happens for a reason, but I'm talking about like everything, including the way that my intellect works and the way that your intellect works, leading you to sort of like a dispassionate atheism, is beautiful and it's working itself out.
It's all about the evolution of my being.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all of this is.
But here's the shitty part, is there was a time in my life when I would have met you and been like, I need to save Kevin.
That's right, of course.
And that sucks for everybody involved.
Right.
It sucks. It's disrespectful to you. It's a horrible burden for me, if I'm being honest. I'm like, oh no, I was told, which I now consider a type of borderline child abuse, I think you're going to hell, because when I was little and my brain wasn't fully formed, people told me that was the reality because we don't know how to read Semitic metaphor.
Right.
So now I'm talking to you, and now my Jesus isn't giving me peace or patience or gratitude or hopefulness or light. It's giving me pain. It's just creating this like horrible trap that I'm in, that I'm trying to get you in with me.
Right.
Otherwise, I have to somehow rationalize the fact that you're going to be in a lake of fire forever. Forever. But fortunately,
When you say forever,
I mean forever. I used to hear
people like to negotiate.
pastors talk about a bird flying from the earth to the moon, each time with a grain of sand in its beak. And he goes, and the length of time it would take for the bird to get all the sand on all the world to the moon, which wouldn't fit, by the way. If he could do that when he's done, eternity begins, right? So these motherfuckers, that I'm actually to answer Judd's question, I have a healthy amount of passionate outrage towards some of the people that taught me growing up. However, I do also see it as essential. I saw the building blocks that they gave me and the pain.
There's no here without there.
That's what I'm saying. And the pain that I went through, realizing that I had been lied to, or at least somebody with good intentions telling me something and they didn't know who the fuck they were dealing with, that my brain was really going to take it seriously and spend the rest of my life thinking about it. A lot of people like yourself don't do that, so they weren't trying to hurt me. But that's all part of it. Now I'm here, I'm on the other side of things, but trying to figure it out is very interesting to me. I will say, when I talk about Christ, there's something very interesting, that you know that light is the only universal constant. So light is everywhere. It's in darkness, you know what I mean? It's throughout the world. So when I think of Christ...
What do you mean light is in darkness?
There's nowhere that light isn't. It's a part of darkness. I'm not an expert in neutrinos or whatever the fuck it is I'm talking about, but it's the only thing that's kind of everywhere.
Okay.
And that's a way that I understand. Somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, and that's fine, by the way, going back to what we were saying about being wrong. It's my understanding that that's the only thing that we find everywhere. There might be places where it's not. Maybe there is, I don't know. I like to think the universal constant is Christ. That idea of an awareness that we all kind of share is one thing that's been split into all these many things. Some of us play the game by trying to remember what we were, and some of us, very beautifully, have no interest in joining from what we were. The whole point of splitting from the one was to forget and to experience and to feel what it's like to be an atheist comedian with a podcast living in 2016. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. When you're a branch and you be your branchiness, that's what I'm talking about when I say I don't want all the branches to be the same.
Yeah.
When I spend most of my life thinking that all branches should be the same.
Right.
But that's how my religion has developed.
Well, beautifully articulated.
Brian Regan on my podcast said, "Why would I say I believe anything firmly when the next book on the shelf could change my mind?" And I think that's truly a transcendent thought.
So he's Yoda.
Well, I was always curious if he was secretly religious, so.
I felt like there was one other question, but I think we got him. Judd, John, Kumail.
Judd's a great presence for me because, as you can tell, I love to get into this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And on the show, we do not go this deep at all, but we sprinkle some in. And Judd's very good at finding the right parts of the types of things we're interested in to sprinkle. Because I think you don't fall in love with a show. Mad Men is a show that I was in love with.
Yes.
If it wasn't scratching something without you even knowing it, but just a little bit deeper. Deeper sounds pretentious, but you know what I'm saying? It's giving you a little bit more nutrition. Sure, it's a great show about smoking and drinking and fucking in 1960s New York, but every once in a while, Matt Weiner would address the lie of consumerism or the loneliness of being alive.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we kept going back to it. And it's my hope we didn't intentionally do it, but everything that we do, when we do it, keeping these types of ideas in mind, maybe some of them, despite our intentions, will slip in and people will feel a connection to
But
the
I
show.
think that's a great aspiration. And I also think that given this opportunity, putting yourself on the plane, getting your 15 minutes, being challenged to go, fine, great, go write it, finding a way to write it, we didn't get further in that conversation, which I would like to.
Oh yeah, I was telling you.
No.
I'm happy to.
But what I was saying about, for me, it became clear to just be proactive and be present. Those were the gifts that I was giving myself and anyone around me who gave a damn. To encourage others also, to find that light in yourself and in the future of your creation. The mantra was, if you're not creating, you're waiting. So as an actor, you wait for the phone to ring. As a comedian, you wait for the phone to ring. Or you can actually create the rest of your life.
And that's what you're doing here?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk, I'm fascinated by the writing process. And you've been a writer for a long time. And you were talking to Mulaney on your podcast, about his journey of, I think it was Louis C.K. who said, well, you don't want to be a writer because then you're a writer. It's either Louis C.K. at Bonnaroo, one of those things, who went on a walk with him and said, you don't want to be a writer because you're a performer. You're a great performer, he was saying to him.
Right.
And you talked a little bit about Mulaney's experience of auditioning for SNL and becoming a writer, and your love of his ability to celebrate that opportunity as opposed to being bitter, when do I get to be on camera?
Right.
And then him loving the detachment of, I'm going to write for this person, Stefan or what have you, because it's a character, it's a thing that I can't do, but I can write for it from my own imagination and skill set. And how fulfilling that is. So I'm fascinated by your being encouraged by a mentor and friend in Judd, who said, that's great, get back on the plane, go home and go write this fucking thing. And then you sitting down in the vacuum, or with Oren, is it?
No, I wrote it. Oren, I came up with the show on my own.
Right. But there's the premise and then there's the script.
Yeah. Well, the thing I was going to tell you was the first thing he said was just do an emotional purge of everything you remember from that time in your life, because it is inspired by an actual thing that happened to me.
An emotional purge on paper.
And he was like, write 20 pages on everything you remember.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate.
Bullet points kind of thing?
What's that?
Bullet points?
Yeah,
or try to put it into story form.
No. Just little random, this and then this and then this and this. And I was fortunate to have some journals from the time and emails, G-chats from the time that I kind of included. It was mostly something that I wrote. And then
it's like that Seinfeld Larry David thing of saying you can be a writer on the show, but all we really want is for you to come in here with your real life stories.
Right.
And then we'll write the episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was giving him everything that I could remember, and it was vulnerable. There was weird stuff. Like, one of the things I remember was putting in how when my wife left me, I would lose my erection while masturbating. Like, I thought that was like such a perfect little vulnerable nugget of what it feels like to have, to have your wife leave you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the sort of stuff that was in the document. It's 20 pages of this. And you'll enjoy this. You seem like me, and guys like us, our plain views like to talk about doing the work and stuff. So he told me to do that, and I think I sent it to him the next day or something. So it was like, it's these little...
Next day.
It's these little like sniffy, like, are you gonna fucking waste my time? And you're like, no, I'm not, Mr. Apatow. I'm not gonna waste your time. Send him the document.
Is it possible, if I may, a little bit in that effort is, look at the hard work I'm doing. Please let me know if you're going to waste my time.
Yeah.
Or whether you're really going to grandfather this.
You know, I suppose so. It's not in the forefront of my mind, but we're sniffing each other out.
Yeah.
We're like, are we going to dance? Are we going to dance? I want to dance.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of vulnerability when you try to seduce your wife, or you put on a suit and you show up at a party where maybe not everyone's wearing a suit. You know what I mean? But you have to face that sort of like, I went to his door with flowers.
Yep.
I was like, hello! And he could have slammed the door in my face, and I would have had to eat shit. I would have had to eat that shit. But I wasn't fucking around. I sent him the 20. I spent the whole day at the Trainwreck set, and he and I were talking about stand-up bits. And the next morning, I sent him, so the next day I wrote the 20, or next day or two, whatever. The next morning in the cab, I sent him on my phone, I wrote out the routine that he had told me with punch-ups. Just kind of like, I was like, I think this is the kind of guy that will appreciate this.
Wow, fantastic.
And I was excited. Like I told you, I get juice from meeting Apatow. It's not lost on me. I'm like, this is crazy. This is my first movie set, and this guy's a big deal to me. So I'm still running on that adrenaline. I'm also a big believer in being in the wrong time zone. Like you're up at a weird time and your brain is just firing. So I punched up a joke that he had. And I'll never forget, he wrote back, he just wrote one line. He said, this is the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. Of course he's joking, but like, he meant it. He was like, that's nice. We're comedians and I'm giving you tags. Isn't that a good feeling? And I'm kind of like, I've been doing stand-up now, I don't know, 17 years. And Judd's certainly been doing it that long, but he took a long hiatus off. So here I am. I might have something of value here. And every once in a while, I'll get a line in Judd's act, just a line here or there.
There are very few things more generous and sincere than that gift you gave him.
That's what I'm saying.
Between comedians.
Between comedians.
Very few.
I was coming with my golden dagger sort of thing, and I was like, and showing respect, I think. I mean, I don't want to dissect
But just
it too much.
camaraderie and everything else that's wonderful among...
This is why it's a story I'll tell my grandchildren. I was like, that was a classy move, but they'll never care as much as you care, so I'm happy to tell it.
That's exactly right. Which is fine.
So I sent the jokes and then the 20, and then, I'm aware that he might, I don't even know if he's reading the 20. It's all this sort of game of like, okay, write the pilot.
Right.
And then I write very quickly, so this is going to seem braggy, and I guess it is braggy, but I wrote the pilot in 2 days.
I was going to say 36 hours, so thank you for not being that braggy.
Is that what your research says? 36 hours? Really?
No.
I write quickly. Once a story is broken, I really like writing dialogue.
Right.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Some people just have the gift of, and then it's beautiful. It's a controlled environment. You go, I say this, they say this, I say this, they say this, and then it ends here, and it just kind of happens. I'm very fortunate to be a person that's experienced that flow.
And do you find that especially true on the first draft?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But it's also, you're right. It's the void, it's the vacuum, as you said. But there's something beautiful about using something that can be, again, I use the word grotesque a lot, but grotesque is confidence and self-love. But when you're alone on the page and just letting it flow, and you want to write a 40-page draft of something that's going to be like 28 pages, go ahead. Like, love yourself just enough. Not too much so you suck and it's jerking off, but enough that you can get it done quickly.
And just know that you're going to read this again before you let anyone else read it. This is the time to be vulnerable and horrible.
That's right.
Yeah.
Steve Martin has a great line about writing where he goes, the unconscious mind writes, the conscious mind edits.
Yeah.
And I really don't give too much of a shit for the conscious mind. I don't think that's where the juice is. That's not where the excitement is.
No.
I could show my 42-page draft to a lot of people, and 5 people, let's say, And a lot of them are going to say the same things. They're going to want to cut the same things because the rational mind is rational. And I know what reason looks like.
Yeah,
that scene is too long. But you have to have this sort of like, but it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Because you're like the lawyer for your subconscious. You're like, I say we leave this in. Yeah. I know it doesn't move the story forward, but it's tone. You know what I mean? It's a kind of a gorgeous exercise. So I like the rational mind fine, but I'm really into the trans-rational mind so much more. Not that it's irrational, but it's beyond rational. It's just kind of like this weird, like Judd himself will tell you the almost spiritual-like experience of writing and getting into a flow and feeling like a radio. And you're just kind of like, I'm just recording what I'm hearing. The guy that wrote The Road, what's his name? Old guy, Cormac McCarthy.
Cormac, yeah.
Cormac McCarthy would talk about writing The Road and having no idea where it was going. And he was just transcribing it, and he would be titillated and excited and surprised.
Greatest feeling ever.
By what happened.
Yeah.
It's like doing a magic trick to yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to get into. So I wrote the script.
48 hours.
48 hours, very exciting, very cathartic, and funny. And I'm in a fortunate position where I can write for myself because it's me, and I'm remembering me. It's a different me, but it's a similar me. I'm basing the characters somewhat on real people. Even if they're not the people that they are, like I might write somebody and be like, this is like my friend Tim, even though Tim was my college roommate, but in this he works with me at a grocery store. Whatever, I'm writing, thinking of touchstones of these people. I showed it to Judd. I'm very proud that I read it so quickly. I sent it to him.
How many times did you read and or rewrite before you sent it to him?
Well, that's the thing. It was a day and a half of writing and then a half a day of revisions.
Okay, great.
And cutting.
Okay.
I sent it to him long too. I was like, I don't care if this is long. So then I wrote that, and then he was like, it's great. You write another one. Because we didn't have anything to do. He couldn't pitch it with me just yet. He was still doing the movie, and I'm just kind of not. I'm in this weird limbo.
Your show's still airing, and nobody knows it's over yet.
Nobody knows it's over, so I'm still kind of like, yeah, I'm glad you like the show.
So he said, "This is great. Write another one."
Write another one, and so he said, write the second one, and I wrote the second one in 2 days, and then we did that 6 times. So I, on spec, wrote 6 episodes of the show, and he was reading them and giving notes. Here and there, but there was a lot. I was touring as a comedian. I'm writing in hotels and stuff. So we wrote 6. And the thing that I like, the good punchline is you did it for free. And then when we pitched the show, and now I'm jumping ahead, HBO retroactively bought those scripts. So we didn't actually use those. So there's so much discarding. There's so many darlings being killed constantly. The pilot got rewritten 12 times. So it was unrecognizable from that first one, but they still bought it, which I thought was an amazing kind of gesture of good faith on their part, on HBO's part. So then eventually he's done with the movie. He comes back to comes back to LA, and we pitched. We could only get 2 meetings, which I kind of couldn't believe, and one of them was HBO, and we went in. And Judd still to this day teases me because, as you've experienced, I like to talk about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, and I want to talk about the universal constant of light, and I want to talk about the love story to suffering, or whatever it might be. And Judd is just like, just be funny, just charm them, be funny. And I couldn't stop talking about the meaning of the show. So he left, and he was kind of like, we gotta talk about your pitch technique. He wasn't like, that's terrible, but he's like, you need to be. He was telling me, like, when I went and pitched Girls with Lena was just Lena. And Lena was funny and somewhat insecure or shy or charming in all those different ways. And that helps. Not a Lena fan. I find Lena very charming. But I went in very heady. So we still joke. It's kind of a phenomenon that HBO bought it, given how
uncharming you were.
I think I was charming, but I wasn't funny. I like being funny, but as you can tell, I like talking, and I like digging.
There's been a disclaimer for an hour and 48 minutes
on
that says, this guy's fucking hilarious.
Well,
there's a lower third.
If you come see me do stand-up, I'm a good stand-up.
That's what the thing that drove this, by the way. I found our first meeting at Largo very interesting and, in fact, charming. Out of water. But when I saw you on stage, it was the first time I saw you live.
Yeah.
And everything you're talking about and expressing in terms of point of view and what have you is present.
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to get to, as we're just about out of time, was that you said something, I'm paraphrasing, in your conversation with Mulaney, I believe, about being on stage and wanting to venture into a side of your thoughts and points of view that are either more silly or someone in charge of an audience.
Yeah.
Aspects of your normal personality that are not necessary when seated backstage in a dressing room at Largo. So that when you go on stage, that heightened reality, while being on stage a representative wholly of your thoughts and feelings.
Right. Through a vehicle that might not be all of them.
Right.
When I'm on stage, I love being silly. There's a message there. It's like, relax, relax, relax. There's no test. Relax, relax. Life is silly. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to joyfully participate in the sorrow of the world, which is one of my favorite Joseph Campbell quotes. I'm not saying the world isn't everything that it is, but I'm saying, at least in this special place, under the bed, we're at the sleepover, and we're manufacturing a tone. That's when my stand-up can really soar. And I have an HBO special coming out on the 3rd, and we really did it.
3rd of November.
December 3rd.
Ah.
So we taped in Chicago, The Weirdos, came out in force, and it was that good.
Transcending.
It's transcending. It's where you don't have to prove anything.
Right.
So when you're doing stand-up, when you
Or
start
introducing yourself, which I love in the comments you were giving when describing the joys of doing stand-up after having a successful podcast, allow you to cut through what your act was initially, which is get to know me.
How are you? I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
Everyone that listens to my podcast or comes to the show knows I lost my virginity in 6 pumps. They know. In is 1, out is 2. It's really
the 17
3.
people that watch and listen to this also.
That make it to this point after all my light universal constant talk.
But I'll remember this, for example. Because we talked before we went on about the importance for us in particular, our enjoyment of being on time or early. Mm-hmm. And you talked about having to drive across town to a writing session where people are frantic and sweaty.
In traffic?
In traffic.
Yeah.
And then you show up a little more enlightened about something you heard from This American Life. This American Life.
Well, I took the 10 here today. It was a breeze, by the way. I take the 10 to Apatow's office every weekday, and some people use Waze, and that navigates them on side streets, making suicide lefts onto 4 lanes of oncoming traffic to save 20 minutes. And I'm like, I would rather...
More like 2 minutes, which is the hilarious part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's the way of the soul.
Yeah, let's prepare. Let's leave 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Take the 10.
Listen to This American Life.
Or this podcast.
Or this podcast, or my podcast. But that's I do call old friends. I listen to audiobooks, and you surrender.
If not for the traffic, how am I supposed to connect with my mother on occasion?
That's right. That's when I call my mom. And she's always upset that I'm calling
Are you in the car?
No.
And then
Yes, my mother too.
What's the sound?
What's that
What's
noise?
that
What's that
sound?
noise?
This asshole next to me is playing hip hop.
Yes. But there's no more spiritual or present question. Let's take God out.
You just lost your brother, I realized.
What do you mean?
If he was watching or listening to this.
How's that?
When I just said the asshole next to me is playing hip hop. Dr. Holmes?
Dr. Holmes.
Dr. Holmes.
He'll appreciate the plug.
Okay.
But the question of where are you going?
Yes.
Is the question of traffic.
Right.
So I love doing a joke where I just get really worked up about Waze. And it's funny, and I'm just kind of swearing and yelling, and it's silly. But underneath that, there is a thing where I'm like, where are you going? Where are you going? Like, you're already there. You're the only place you'll
And
ever
underneath
be.
that is, why are you torturing yourself?
Why are you torturing yourself? Surrender. Literally let go. And I said on Kimmel, I was like, it's one of the few situations where you know exactly what you have to do. You have to sit there. And I look to my right, and there's people with veins in their neck like Snickers bars, and they're screaming, and they're like, this motherfucker's like, I'll be happy when I get to work. It's like, relax. It's another cliche, but the only opportunity you have to be happy is right now. It's like that idea that happiness is only right now, and finding it in traffic is a spiritual practice.
But that's also being proactive, by the way.
Absolutely.
100%.
It's not God, make me patient. It's not outsourcing it. It's using the gift of your intellect, the gift of your breathing, or whatever it might be, to empower yourself to say, I'm going to consciously be in traffic. This is part of life. It's not when I get to work I'll be living. I'm in the car now, and even if it's just quiet, what's that feel like? Be right there. Can you center yourself enough to do that?
Here's something I find fascinating, because your evolution is remarkable. As a human who is self-motivated to the level that you are about all things, be it intellect or control of the Snickers in your veins. So my question throughout all the research was, is there an end game with you in therapy? Because...
Oh, you mean giving therapy or being in therapy? Because I'm already in therapy.
No, I'm saying being in therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Is there an end game if you were this evolved that you can talk with such clarity and such beautiful articulation of these things that are between you being the real you, and happiness?
Yeah.
Does that come from all these years in therapy, or do you keep going back because why? You want to keep evolving.
Yes.
And that's helped you.
Yeah, absolutely. I need help. You know what I mean?
Well, we all do.
I can sit here and have it together for an interview. I love being interviewed. I love interviewing people. It's this special heightened awareness where you and I talk, and the cameras add some urgency. We can really be alive right here. You know what I mean? It's a little bit harder when I'm alone getting day drunk or whatever, watching a movie I've seen before. That happens too. You know what I'm saying? So it's not all the time. I need help, and I'm interested in what other people have to say, and I'm fortunate that that's my passion, and I'm fortunate to find an audience that wants to be entertained and laugh, and also figure what the fuck it is we're doing here. That being said, it's about feeding each other. You know what I mean? There's this Chinese proverb about heaven and hell, and they go in a room and it's a banquet table, and all the people are trying to eat, and they have chopsticks the size of pool cues, so they're trying to get it to their mouth and they can't get it. So everyone's emaciated and starving and miserable. That's hell. Then you go to the next room, it's the same exact situation, long pool cue chopsticks, everybody's fat and happy because they're feeding each other, right? And that's beautiful. When I hear any great teacher or mystic or whatever say, serve people, feed people, I don't think it's just food, and I don't think it's just getting up to help the homeless at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. Your service can blissfully coincide with what you just happen to like doing. Comedy is a way of feeding people. It's a wonderful way of experiencing solidarity and unity when we're all laughing as one thing. It's a show. That's beautiful. It's the opposite of being alone. It's feeding the other people with your chopsticks. So when it comes to the things that I figure out, for better or worse, I am a bit of a proselytizer. So if I read something that really changes my life, I'm compelled to share it. And that to me is feeding people. So when I don't, I like writing this stuff, I'm trying to work on a book or whatever, and when I don't want to do that, I just remember, feed people, because this is shit I needed to hear. Growing up repressed and religious and guilty and afraid, I'm trying to write the book that guy needed to hear.
Yes.
Because there's millions of those motherfuckers that I was, and if I can relieve some of their suffering, no one would argue that that's a great thing. There might be some people that are a little bit more in the gray matter of their main rigid, and they think what I'm saying is new agey or snake oily or pseudoscience and nonsense. And so maybe they think what I'm doing isn't serving people. But there are people that were raised with a certain type of vocabulary to express their feelings and their experience that will delight in what I have to share.
Right.
And I'm just trying to talk to them.
Sure.
If you were raised,
of course,
by beautiful MIT professors that told you about the hard science and the soul is a myth and all that stuff, that's fine, do that trip. I'm just trying to talk to the people that were raised like me. So I don't see it as therapy, but I do, in the end game, when I'm really looking at like a full life, my goals aren't just like a comedy special every couple years. I want to do that, don't get me wrong. Or a podcast. it's like, how do we take it to that next place? And I'm not talking about having Tony Robbins conferences or whatever. I'm talking about how can we keep the dialogue alive, because people are looking for spaces where it's safe, and they're looking for people that go like, hey, it's safe. It's safe if you want to talk to me in that way. Do you want to play around in the thought experiment that there is a life after death? Do you want to just kind of like dabble in that? Because I'll be safe for you. I can't change you, but I can be in an environment where maybe you can change yourself.
Right.
Because it'll be safe. I'll be a green light person, and I'll listen to you, and I won't criticize everything you say, and see where we end up. So that's the end game, is to find ways to feed myself and to feed other people with the long chopsticks.
Well, there you have it, ladies and Jews. If you want to know more...
And boner jokes.
December 3rd, the stand-up special drops where? HBO. And...
The home box office, if you will.
Home box office with... they're not TV.
It's HBO.
Uh-huh.
That was a great uh-huh.
Yeah, well...
It was very good.
Yeah. It's...
Are you good at auditioning?
After 200 failed attempts, I would say yes.
Oh, good. Yeah. I bet you are. That uh-huh was enough to book the part. I thought that was a great uh-huh. Some people, Mamet says interesting actors are interesting people. It was a good uh-huh.
Interesting that you shot all the episodes of your new show, and yet I... Did you shoot here?
We shot in New York.
Oh, season 2, I can't. February is when we're told to look for Crashing to debut on It's Not TV, It's HBO. December 3rd, 1st, of course, is when the stand-up special titled...
Faces and Sounds.
Faces and Sounds. Did you workshop the title?
That's an Apatow.
Oh, well, then it's beyond reproach.
I pitched it to him, and he said, "Well, that's your space."
That's you.
That's it. That's you.
Yeah, that's you.
It says something about you.
Yeah.
Because again, here I am telling you what's underneath the stand-up. When you watch it, you'll be like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" I'm just jingling keys. You know what I mean? But sometimes
don't miss the jingling keys.
Yeah.
I beg of you. It Just Got Weird is the name of the podcast.
You made it weird.
You just made it. No, you made it weird.
Yeah.
You made it weird.
Which you're welcome on that. I would love to have you.
Well, then...
He's unemployed right now. He'd love to come. He's in between things right now. He has nothing but time.
Why?
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I look forward to it. So then we'll talk about that in the closing moments after the cameras are down.
See, Mark Evan Jackson said work would come.
Yep. He knew, and you made it happen.
Wait, what happened?
She
We're just
shared
talking to
with
a friend of ours. I was talking to a friend of ours last night, and he's like, "Oh, what's Kevin up to?" And I'm like, "He's unemployed right now." And he's like, "Something will come.
Something always comes." He said, "Kevin always works."
What do you mean? You're just an actor.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't mean you're just an actor.
Yeah, no, it's...
What actor is employed?
She heard me say to someone here, in fact, only within the last 4 days, what's going on? And I said, I'm actually enjoying the fact that I spent over a year on this movie, from making it to it coming out, and 5 movies as an actor this year. And I'm enjoying knowing that the rest of the year is off, and I'm not panicking about when my next job is, because I'm spinning 17 plates, and it's going to come because of that. And
that's great.
Yeah.
Where
and
are
so
you
Jamie
going?
takes all of that into, he's unemployed.
That's funny.
And that's what she says to our friends, because that's her role.
But you see, that's traffic. You're not at your job yet, so you're not where you need to be. You're already there.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Yeah. We'll talk off air about, I would love to come do the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, first and foremost. Honestly.
For this?
For making the time for us today.
My pleasure. I was looking forward to it.
Oh, great.
It's an honor to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Now, would you mind sitting there uncomfortably while I wrap things up for the folks at home?
I love it. I can just, this is my
I
track.
was going to say it's time for your Larry King game, but we've already got that.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of thanks, let's go out to Evil Dr. Kenny Chen, Brian, the greatest intern that ever lived, Brad Register, up in the Crow's Nest, J-Mac as well. Jamie, thanks as always. Anything you want to pass along as we wrap up? Why do I do this to
Oh,
you?
My RO came in for my sketch show. I got one sketch.
Your RO.
Yeah,
Help people
run
who
order.
don't know what that means.
Run order
Run order.
of my sketch show. One sketch.
One sketch. If this is for the month of
I
November.
kind of screwed myself though, because I wrote a sketch and then a runner, and I feel like I screwed myself in writing a runner because it took up too much time.
You cut that? You cut like 8 things?
I'm sorry?
Is that what you mean? Like if you cut your runner, you're cutting like a lot of different things you wrote?
No, if I would be the show's only 25 minutes long, so it's like if they used my runner, then it wouldn't be it would cut other people's stuff.
And you've got more writers than you need.
I think we have too many writers.
Too many writers.
Too many cooks.
The name of your third book. Too many writers, too many cooks. We had sitting in Megan Williams.
Yep.
Oh, they said he wouldn't remember. And Corey Levin on Post. Who am I leaving out? Anybody?
You got everyone.
Excellent. Very own Sam Levine will return next Sunday with his own hosting duties. He'll be guest hosting for me. I believe he said, well, I'll let him follow him on Twitter at Sam Levine to find out who his guest is. Is it at Pete Holmes? At Mr. Pete Holmes? At Pete Holmes? It's just at Pete Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, that's it for this one. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.